The long-term strategy of keeping your hands clean. Greene concludes the chapter by stressing that the practice of keeping your hands clean is a long-term strategy for achieving sustainable power. In the short term, it may be tempting to get directly involved in conflicts, to fight fire with fire, or to take matters into your own hands. However, taking the high road, or appearing to do so, ultimately leads to greater respect, influence, and longevity in the game of power. Maintaining a clean image is a tactic that ensures that when things go wrong, you are not associated with the failure. Over time, people will come to trust you more, not because of your actual actions but because of how you are perceived. The clean hands principle helps you stay ahead of the game, allowing you to build and maintain a powerful, respected persona that outlasts the ups and downs of day-to-day struggles for power. Chapter 27. Play on people's need to believe to create a cult-like following. In Chapter 27 of the 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene explores the psychology of human belief systems and the power of creating a cult-like following. The chapter examines how charismatic leaders often draw on people's inherent need for meaning, purpose, and direction to create a sense of devotion and loyalty. Greene's central message is that people are naturally inclined to believe in something greater than themselves, and those who can tap into this desire for a cause, ideology, or belief can gain immense power. At the heart of the chapter is the concept that belief is a potent tool for manipulating and controlling the masses. Whether through religion, politics, or other forms of social influence, those who can build belief systems can wield incredible power, controlling the thoughts and actions of their followers. Greene argues that religions, movements, and ideologies are all based on a set of beliefs that attract followers who seek answers to life's big questions. The power of charisma and vision. Greene starts by highlighting the role of charisma in gaining and holding a following. A key trait of many influential leaders, from religious figures to politicians, is their ability to inspire. They speak to the heart, offering followers a vision of something bigger and more meaningful than the mundane world they live in. This vision, whether it's a spiritual awakening or a call to action, taps into people's deepest needs and desires. Leaders who are able to offer a clear, compelling narrative, a vision of something that can be achieved, often become larger-than-life figures. Greene emphasizes that charismatic individuals rarely possess actual material wealth or traditional forms of power. Instead, they often have the ability to inspire, the gift of language, and the capacity to create a compelling narrative. These individuals build a following by presenting themselves as the answer to the follower's needs. Whether it's providing guidance, offering salvation, or creating a sense of purpose. One of the best examples Greene provides is Mahatma Gandhi, who did not have much material wealth or military power, but through his vision of an independent India and his charismatic leadership, he became a pivotal figure in the country's fight for freedom. His ability to inspire and create a strong belief in his cause was what made him so powerful, not his material resources. The use of symbols and rituals. To create a cult-like following, symbols, rituals, and a sense of exclusivity are powerful tools. Leaders understand that symbols serve as visual cues that connect followers to something greater than themselves. The power of symbols can be seen in everything from flags and logos to religious icons and political slogans. These symbols become a rallying point for people's emotions and beliefs, tying them to a larger cause. Greene highlights how rituals can deepen the connection between the leader and their followers. Rituals serve to create a sense of community and reinforce the belief system. Whether it's through regular meetings, chants, or collective actions, these rituals make followers feel as though they are part of something bigger, offering a sense of belonging and purpose. An example of this is the Church of Scientology, which has been successful in creating a cult-like following by using rituals, symbols, and exclusive teachings to attract and retain followers. The process of being inducted into the movement involves a series of steps that make the followers feel like they're part of an exclusive club, further deepening their devotion to the cause and the leader. The role of a common enemy. One strategy that Greene discusses in this chapter is the idea of creating a common enemy to unite followers. People often feel more connected and stronger when they rally against a shared enemy. This tactic can be incredibly effective in consolidating a group's power and loyalty. By focusing people's attention on a clear enemy, leaders can divert their attention from internal issues or shortcomings and direct it towards a unified goal. For instance, in the political realm, many leaders have rallied their followers by creating the image of an external threat, be it an opposing political party, a foreign enemy, or a perceived societal issue. Adolf Hitler famously used this tactic by blaming Germany's troubles on the Jewish population, uniting his followers with a common enemy. This dangerous manipulation, though extreme, demonstrates the powerful effect of creating a unified us versus them mentality. The common enemy can also serve as a way to motivate action, pushing followers to defend their leader and their cause. The us versus them mentality helps followers see themselves as part of an exclusive group that is fighting for survival or justice, reinforcing their loyalty to the leader. Creating a sense of belonging. Greene explains that human beings are inherently social creatures, and they have a deep-seated need to belong to a group. A cult-like following can offer followers this sense of belonging, helping them feel part of something larger than themselves. Leaders who succeed in this area make followers feel special and important, providing them with an identity that is rooted in the belief system. This can be achieved through exclusivity, where the group is portrayed as a select and elite group with knowledge or insight that others don't have. Whether through secretive teachings or esoteric wisdom, the group is made to feel privileged for being part of something that the outside world doesn't understand. Greene offers the example of Napoleon Bonaparte, who created an almost mythical aura around himself, making his followers feel as though they were part of something unique. Napoleon's charismatic leadership and the way he portrayed his mission as a divine destiny made his followers believe that they were part of something extraordinary. The idea of belonging and being part of history in the making fueled the devotion of his followers. The dangers of cult-like leadership. Greene acknowledges that creating a cult-like following can be an incredibly powerful tool for gaining and maintaining power. However, he also warns of the dangers inherent in this approach. A cult-like following is fragile, and the leader's power can easily dissipate if the belief system falters, if there's a scandal, or if followers start to question the leader's integrity or vision. Moreover, leaders who create a cult-like following are at risk of becoming isolated and detached from reality. The fervent loyalty of followers can blind the leader to important criticisms or opposition, creating an echo chamber where only the leader's perspective is heard. This can ultimately lead to poor decision-making and, in extreme cases, the leader's downfall. Chapter 28, Enter Action with Boldness. In Chapter 28 of the 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene explores the principle of taking action with boldness, emphasizing how decisiveness and confidence can tip the balance of power in one's favor. The main idea behind this chapter is that when you are faced with a challenge or opportunity, acting with boldness can command attention, create momentum, and ultimately lead to success. By acting decisively, you can avoid the indecision that often leads to hesitation and missed opportunities. The power of boldness. The central message of Chapter 28 is that boldness is not just about taking risks, it's about creating a sense of certainty and control. People are naturally drawn to those who exude confidence, as it conveys that they know exactly what they want and how they plan to achieve it. Bold actions are often seen as assertive and authoritative, which can push others into alignment with your goals. It's an energetic approach to life that reflects a clear sense of purpose and self-assurance. Greene highlights how history's most successful individuals were not necessarily the most careful or cautious, but those who embraced boldness as a way to create opportunities. Boldness, in this sense, is strategic. It's about understanding that waiting too long or second-guessing yourself can cause you to lose your edge, as indecision often leads to failure. The power of boldness comes from acting before doubt creeps in and the opportunity slips away. Boldness and the element of surprise. A key tactic within this law is the element of surprise. Boldness can take many forms, but one of the most impactful is when an individual acts in a way that is unexpected, catching others off guard. This unpredictability can be used to your advantage by disorienting your opponents and creating confusion. Surprise is a powerful tool because it undermines others' confidence and throws off their plans, giving you the upper hand. Greene provides several historical examples, where boldness was not just about being audacious, but also about timing. By making bold moves when others were least expecting it, leaders and conquerors like Napoleon Bonaparte and Alexander the Great achieved significant victories. Their ability to make quick, assertive decisions in the heat of the moment allowed them to seize opportunities before anyone had a chance to react. The dangers of hesitation. A central theme in this chapter is the danger of hesitation. Greene argues that hesitation can create a feeling of weakness and uncertainty. When you delay action, others can see it as a lack of confidence. This can lead to doubts about your leadership abilities and can cause others to lose faith in your decisions. On the flip side, boldness conveys that you are confident, resolute, and in control. For instance, in the world of business, when companies hesitate to act on new ideas or innovations, they may lose their competitive edge to bolder competitors. In politics, hesitation can result in missed chances to seize power or influence, allowing your adversaries to gain ground. Boldness, in contrast, makes you stand out and signals to others that you are not afraid to take charge. Boldness and leadership. Greene also explores how boldness is an essential trait for leaders. Leaders who hesitate or appear unsure will lose their followers' respect and trust. Leadership requires the ability to make decisions quickly, sometimes in situations where the outcome is uncertain. When a leader acts boldly, even when faced with adversity, it reassures their followers that they are heading in the right direction, which helps to maintain morale and loyalty. An effective leader, Greene notes, has a clear vision and decisively pursues it. This is not to say that bold actions should be reckless or impulsive, but that a leader should show confidence in their choices. A leader's boldness instills confidence in their team, creating a shared belief that the mission is possible, no matter how challenging. Balancing boldness with caution. While Chapter 28 emphasizes the importance of boldness, Greene also discusses the need to balance boldness with a sense of calculation. Boldness should not equate to recklessness or ignoring potential risks. Instead, boldness should come from a place of knowledge, preparation, and confidence in your ability to handle the consequences of your actions. Greene provides the example of Julius Caesar, who was known for his boldness on the battlefield. However, Caesar's decisions were not random or impulsive, they were the result of careful planning and strategic thinking. His bold actions were always executed with a clear goal in mind and an understanding of how to mitigate potential risks. By balancing boldness with intelligence, Caesar was able to achieve remarkable success and expand the Roman Empire. The role of boldness in combat and negotiation. One of the most striking applications of boldness is in combat and negotiation, where the stakes are high, and the margin for error is small. In both scenarios, decisive action is paramount. Greene explains that the ability to strike first in any conflict, whether physical or intellectual, often determines the outcome. In combat, a swift, bold assault can throw off an opponent's strategy and gain the upper hand. Similarly, in negotiations, a bold move early in the process can set the tone and create an aura of strength. For example, in business negotiations, the first person to make an offer often holds the power, as it sets the parameters for the rest of the discussion. By making bold moves early, you show that you are in control, and that you're not afraid to take risks to secure what you want. Boldness can put others on the defensive, forcing them to react to your terms, rather than being the one who reacts. The psychological impact of boldness. Greene also touches on the psychological impact that boldness has on both the individual and their audience. Boldness is often perceived as a sign of confidence, which in turn generates respect and fear. When you take bold action, you project an image of someone who is in control, someone who does not hesitate or second-guess their decisions. This mental image can affect the way others perceive you, making them more likely to respect your authority and follow your lead. This psychological effect is crucial in social dynamics, where people are often looking for a figure to follow or someone who appears to have the answers. Boldness attracts attention, and this attention can be leveraged to influence and lead others. When you make bold moves, you shape how people see you, allowing you to take control of the narrative. Chapter 29, Plan All the Way to the End. In Chapter 29 of the 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene presents the critical importance of planning and emphasizes how having a clear vision of the end goal allows you to navigate challenges and avoid potential pitfalls. The overarching lesson is simple. Don't just act on impulse or react to circumstances, plan meticulously and think ahead. Those who fail to plan adequately set themselves up for failure, while those who map out every step, considering every possibility, have the power to shape their fate. This law encourages an approach to power that's strategic, where the end result is always in sight, and each move is calculated to bring you closer to that desired conclusion. The power of strategic vision. The heart of Chapter 29 lies in the principle of strategic foresight. Greene argues that the most successful individuals in history weren't merely reactive but had a clear sense of where they were headed, even if the road was long and filled with obstacles. These individuals had the foresight to envision the end goal and continuously adjusted their tactics along the way to ensure that they reached it. For example, one of the most famous tacticians in history, Napoleon Bonaparte, was known for his exceptional ability to foresee potential outcomes and plan his military campaigns with incredible detail. Napoleon's genius wasn't just about quick reactions or improvisation, but about his deep understanding of the landscape and an ability to foresee both short-term tactics and long-term strategy. By planning all the way to the end, Napoleon could anticipate enemy moves, avoid unforeseen challenges, and secure his dominance in battle. Greene's key insight here is that successful people are planners, and without a clear end goal, all efforts can be wasted. Planning ahead provides the framework needed to make decisions confidently and stay focused, no matter the distractions or difficulties that might arise. Avoiding pitfalls and unforeseen obstacles. One of the reasons why planning all the way to the end is so important, as Greene elaborates, is that it helps you to avoid surprises that could derail your efforts. When you have a clear vision of the end, you are not simply reacting to what happens around you but are actively shaping your journey. This means that you can anticipate potential problems, evaluate risks, and develop contingencies. Greene uses the analogy of a game of chess. The best players think several moves ahead. Every potential move is calculated, and they account for the possible responses from their opponents. This mindset is equally useful in life and business, where success often depends on your ability to foresee outcomes and prepare accordingly. Whether in relationships, business, or politics, surprises can ruin your progress. The best way to avoid falling victim to them is to plan with attention to detail, covering every possible scenario. Being prepared also means being flexible. Even the best-laid plans encounter obstacles, and those who succeed are those who can adapt without losing sight of their ultimate goal. Planning involves knowing the terrain, but also being prepared to shift when necessary without losing focus on the end result. The role of patience in planning. In Chapter 29, Greene also emphasizes the patience required to plan all the way to the end. A well-thought-out strategy takes time, and those who are hasty or impulsive will often bypass key steps or fail to account for unforeseen variables. Strategic planning demands the ability to endure the uncertainty of the present in order to achieve future goals. This patience is not a passive waiting game, instead, it's the active process of refining and adjusting your strategies until they align with your desired outcome. One of the most common mistakes people make, according to Greene, is acting too quickly, believing that the fastest way to success is immediate action. This approach often leads to failure because it lacks the depth of considered planning. In contrast, taking your time, gathering necessary information, and thinking critically before acting positions you for greater success in the long run. The importance of flexibility in execution. Greene doesn't advocate for rigidly sticking to a plan at all costs, despite the focus on careful planning. Rather, he encourages a balance of determination and flexibility. A good plan provides a framework, but flexibility allows for the adjustment of that framework as circumstances change. The best strategists are those who can remain focused on their ultimate goal while adapting their approach based on real-time feedback and unexpected developments. For example, when Bill Gates founded Microsoft, his early strategies were continually adjusted to match the evolving tech landscape. Rather than sticking rigidly to one single path, he consistently assessed and refined his strategy, ensuring that Microsoft would maintain a competitive edge in a rapidly changing industry. This adaptability combined with a well-structured plan contributed to the company's rise to prominence. The power of surprise and the final moves. One of the key strategies Greene discusses in Chapter 29 is the use of surprise. By the time you reach the final stage of your plan, if you've done everything right, you should be in a position to deliver a final blow that no one saw coming. This is the culmination of your efforts, the point where everything falls into place, and you execute your plan with precision. Greene refers to this as the final move, which is often a display of boldness and decisiveness. The best way to capture the moment of success is to execute your plan when the time is right, knowing that all your previous steps have led up to this decisive action. Timing your final move for maximum impact is a crucial part of any long-term strategy. The goal is not only to succeed but to do so with such force that your competitors or adversaries are left in awe, unable to respond effectively. This approach is not only for the battlefield or business, it's also relevant in social dynamics. Whether it's navigating a corporate environment or influencing social circles, the ability to strategically plan and wait for the right moment gives you the upper hand. When others believe you are acting impulsively, you can quietly execute your well-thought-out strategy and achieve what seemed impossible. The importance of long-term thinking. Greene stresses that those who fail to plan all the way to the end tend to focus on short-term goals without considering the long-term consequences of their actions. While focusing on the immediate payoff might seem tempting, it can lead to short-lived success, as decisions that ignore the future often backfire. Those who plan with the long term in mind are better prepared to weather any storms and continue progressing, even when unexpected challenges arise. By thinking about the end game, not just the immediate obstacles, successful individuals place themselves in a stronger position to handle whatever the future brings. This long-term perspective is often what differentiates those who achieve lasting success from those who fall into the trap of temporary triumphs. Chapter 30. Make your accomplishments seem effortless. In Chapter 30 of the 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene presents the principle of making your achievements appear effortless. This law is about creating an image of grace, confidence, and seamless success, even when the reality may involve immense effort and struggle. The essence of this chapter is that power often lies in how you present yourself to the world. If you appear to achieve greatness with ease, others are more likely to be drawn to you, admire you, and defer to your authority. The art of concealment. One of the central ideas of this chapter is the art of concealment. Greene emphasizes that the most powerful individuals are often those who make their struggles invisible. Rather than showing the strain of their efforts, they make it seem as if success is a natural byproduct of their abilities. This not only enhances their allure but also preserves their aura of control and poise. By presenting accomplishments in a way that seems effortless, you elevate your status and make others more likely to perceive you as someone extraordinary. If you allow others to see the hard work behind your success, they may begin to question the value of your achievements, leading them to see you as just another person struggling with the same challenges they face. Concealing your difficulties allows you to maintain an image of strength and mastery. The power of grace. Grace, as Greene explains, is an essential component of making your accomplishments seem effortless. Grace involves smoothness and ease, qualities that project a sense of mastery over any situation. When you perform a task with grace, others are impressed by how fluid and natural it appears, even though they may not realize the level of preparation, practice, and effort that went into it. Take, for example, great performers, whether musicians, athletes, or actors. What makes them captivating is not just their technical skill, but the effortlessness with which they perform. Their actions seem almost automatic, yet underneath this exterior is a lifetime of hard work, training, and sacrifice. The key is to create the illusion of ease, so that others are left in awe of your abilities without fully understanding the amount of effort that went into honing them. Creating the illusion of effortlessness. Greene explains that one of the key strategies for creating the illusion of effortlessness is strategic understatement. Instead of boasting about your achievements or drawing attention to how hard you work to get to where you are, you should downplay the effort involved. Speak modestly, as if your accomplishments are just a natural extension of who you are, not something that required extreme exertion. By downplaying your efforts, you make others feel that what you've achieved is within their reach, which, paradoxically, increases their admiration for you. They see you as a model of grace and poise, and this causes them to respect your power even more. If you act as though it was easy, others will begin to believe that you possess an almost supernatural skill, making them eager to align themselves with you. Avoiding the trap of appearing too effortless. While making your achievement seem effortless is powerful, Greene warns against overdoing it. If you make everything seem too effortless, people may begin to doubt the authenticity of your success. The key is to strike a balance between projecting ease and maintaining credibility. The appearance of effortlessness should never be too perfect, there must always be a hint of depth and substance behind it. For example, in the world of business, a successful entrepreneur might make it look easy to run a company, but if they don't occasionally reveal the challenges they've faced or acknowledge the effort involved, people may start to see them as disconnected from reality. This can harm your image and cause others to question your relatability. The role of mystery. A related concept in this chapter is the importance of mystery in achieving effortless success. When you make your actions seem effortless, you also create a sense of intrigue. Others may become fascinated by how you manage to do so much with such ease, and this fascination only enhances your power. Mystery, in this sense, doesn't mean hiding the truth, but rather maintaining a level of elusiveness about how you operate. By keeping certain aspects of your methods private, you allow others to fill in the gaps with their own assumptions and fantasies, elevating your status further. The more people don't understand how you achieve success, the more they admire it. The power of focus and control. Another important lesson in Chapter 30 is that making your accomplishments seem effortless requires tremendous focus and control. To create the illusion of ease, you must work hard behind the scenes to perfect your craft. However, this preparation should be done in private. Publicly, you should appear calm and composed, ready to handle any challenge with grace. Greene uses the example of famous public figures who always appear calm, no matter the pressure they face. They are able to maintain their composure because they've put in the time and effort to master their craft. For instance, a famous actor who never seems nervous during a performance likely spent years of practice, memorizing lines, studying their craft, and preparing mentally and physically for their role. On stage, their calm demeanor masks the intense preparation required to pull off the performance seamlessly. Mastery through repetition. The ultimate source of apparent effortlessness is mastery, and mastery is achieved through repetition and practice. The more you practice something, the less effort it takes to do. Greene underscores that the greatest performers, whether in the arts, business, or any field, achieve their seamless execution not through a lack of effort, but through the repetitive honing of their skills. Over time, these individuals reach a level where their actions are so ingrained in them that they can perform them effortlessly, in front of any audience, under any conditions. This level of mastery makes them seem as if their success is a product of innate talent rather than hard work. The paradox of effortlessness. One of the final insights of this chapter is the paradox that emerges: true effortlessness is the result of immense effort. Those who make their achievements seem easy have usually put in an extraordinary amount of time and practice. The effort is hidden, but it exists in abundance. This paradox is something that those in positions of power understand deeply. Whether they are leaders, entertainers, or entrepreneurs, they know that success requires a vast amount of behind-the-scenes work. The key is to disguise the effort. The illusion of ease is the mark of someone who has perfected their craft, and this is what makes their achievements so compelling. Chapter 31, Control the Options, Get Others to Play with the Cards You Deal. In Chapter 31 of the 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene outlines the strategic concept of controlling the options available to others. This law is about shaping the choices people have in a way that benefits you. When you control the options, you essentially control the outcome of any situation. By manipulating the environment and steering the decisions of others, you can ensure that they make choices that align with your goals, without them even realizing they are being directed. Understanding the power of choice. The foundation of this law is rooted in psychology. People love to feel like they are in control of their decisions. The sense of freedom and autonomy that comes from choosing is deeply ingrained in human nature. Greene highlights that while people may feel empowered when making a decision, they are often influenced by the context in which those choices are presented. By controlling the options, you take away the uncertainty and allow people to choose within the confines you've set, thus controlling the outcome. This law works not only in personal relationships but also in business, politics, and other domains of power. The key to making this strategy effective is in the presentation of the options. By framing choices in a way that leads people toward a particular outcome, you can make them feel as though they are making the choice themselves, even though they are actually being guided to your desired result. Creating the illusion of freedom. Greene emphasizes that, while it's essential to control the options, it's equally important to create the illusion of freedom. When you present a limited range of options to people, they still feel they are making a choice. This gives them the psychological satisfaction of autonomy. For example, if you're in a position of leadership, rather than directly telling someone what to do, you might present them with a set of options. All these options should lead to the same desired outcome for you. This way, the person thinks they have control over their actions, but in reality, their decision is constrained by the choices you have provided. This principle is central to many political and business strategies, where leaders or powerful figures present decisions in a way that feels like freedom, but the outcome is already predetermined. When you effectively control the options, you ensure that no matter what the person chooses, it ultimately serves your purpose. The art of the limited choice. Greene introduces the concept of the limited choice. An artful way of narrowing options without making it obvious that the choices are deliberately constructed. For example, a leader in a business might ask an employee, "Would you prefer to work on Project A or Project B?" Both options might seem like separate paths, but they are actually aligned with the leader's goals. The options are limited, and both lead toward the same end. By offering limited choices, you subtly guide the decision-making process and make others feel as though they are contributing to the outcome. This creates an illusion of participation, but in reality, you are the one determining the direction. The power of framing. An essential component of controlling options is framing. Framing is the way in which you present information and structure the choices available. By framing choices in a particular way, you make one option seem far more appealing than others. This method uses psychological principles to guide people's thinking without them realizing it. For instance, if you present an option with high stakes or a sense of urgency, people will be more inclined to choose it. In a negotiation, you might frame one option as the best opportunity you will have all year, creating a sense of scarcity and urgency that makes it seem irresistible. By framing the decision in a way that highlights certain features or exaggerates certain consequences, you increase the likelihood that people will make the choice you want. Creating the illusion of conflict. Greene also discusses how creating the illusion of conflict can enhance your power in situations where you are presenting options. This strategy involves framing a situation in such a way that two opposing choices are presented as the only viable options. This creates the illusion that a tough decision must be made, when in fact, both options are part of your larger strategy. People will feel as though they are choosing between two conflicting paths, but both paths are carefully aligned with your ultimate goal. For example, in a business scenario, a company might create a marketing campaign where they present a product as being the only option for customers. They might even introduce a competing product that appears to be a lesser choice, only to highlight the superiority of the original product. By framing the situation as a competition between two options, the consumer is led to make the right choice without fully realizing they were guided toward it. Control through scarcity. One effective way to control options is through scarcity. People are often more drawn to things that seem rare or difficult to obtain. Greene explains that by limiting the availability of something, whether it's time, resources, or opportunities, you increase its value in the eyes of others. By creating scarcity, you make your options more attractive because they feel exclusive or rare. Scarcity works because it taps into human psychology. When something is scarce, people feel as though they must act quickly to secure it, which gives the decision a sense of urgency. In a negotiation, for example, you can use the tactic of scarcity to pressure others into making decisions more quickly, believing that they might lose out if they don't act fast. This can make the choices you present feel more significant and desirable. The importance of keeping people engaged. Greene notes that, while controlling the options is critical, it's equally important to keep people engaged in the decision-making process. Engagement makes people feel like they are an active part of the decision, and when they feel involved, they are more likely to follow through with your desired choice. By keeping people invested in the options you present, you create a sense of collaboration, which increases their satisfaction with the outcome, even if they ultimately made the choice you had planned for them. This technique is often used in marketing and sales, where companies engage customers in interactive ways, making them feel like they are co-creators of the decision. Whether it's through surveys, customizable options, or personalized suggestions, companies keep customers involved in the process, even when the actual decision-making is heavily influenced by the company's own goals. The power of psychological leverage. At its core, Chapter 31 is about leveraging psychological principles to control the decisions of others. Whether it's through the illusion of freedom, scarcity, or framing, Greene's law focuses on understanding how people think and using that understanding to guide them toward a particular decision. When you control the options, you effectively control the situation, and this gives you a significant advantage in any power dynamic. Greene warns, however, that this strategy requires careful planning and subtlety. If people feel that their options are being too overtly controlled, they may resist or rebel. The key is to make the control feel natural, as if the options are simply the logical choices, rather than being manipulated into a predetermined outcome. Chapter 32, Play to People's Fantasies. In Chapter 32 of the 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene explores the power of appealing to people's fantasies. He asserts that those who master the art of addressing the desires, hopes, and illusions of others can wield tremendous influence. Instead of focusing on reality, those who can tap into the fantasies of others will capture their attention, shape their perceptions, and often bend them to their will. The power of fantasy. Humans are driven by their emotions and desires, and one of the strongest forces in human behavior is fantasy. Greene highlights how people are more inclined to act based on their fantasies and dreams rather than on the rational, practical realities of a situation. This law suggests that when you understand and appeal to the deeper, often unconscious needs of others, you can captivate their hearts and minds, leading them to follow you or believe in your cause. The chapter begins with the insight that fantasies often serve as a coping mechanism for people who feel dissatisfied with their current situation. Whether it's financial insecurity, relationship troubles, or unfulfilled dreams, many people have unmet desires that they attempt to fulfill through fantasy. Greene argues that to hold power over others, you must not only recognize these fantasies but also cultivate and feed them in a way that makes you seem like the key to fulfilling their dreams. Understanding the fantasy mindset. The human mind is often trapped in a world of illusion and unattainable desires. The fantasy realm is a place where everything can be idealized, where one is the hero of their own story, where problems fade away, and desires are effortlessly fulfilled. Greene notes that those who understand this inner world of fantasy can craft messages, actions, or products that speak directly to it. By aligning yourself with people's fantasies, you gain access to their psychological weaknesses and their longing for something greater than what reality offers. For example, a powerful leader might promise the dream of wealth, freedom, or a better future, knowing that these dreams resonate deeply with their followers. The appeal isn't based on logical promises or actual achievements, but on the emotional connection to what people long for. By playing to their fantasies, the leader can make them feel like they're part of something larger than themselves, encouraging loyalty, belief, and action. Appealing to desires, not realities. One of the key ideas in this chapter is that people are often more attracted to desire than to reality. Greene gives several examples from history, politics, and advertising to illustrate how successful individuals and movements have been built not on the promise of reality, but on the promise of something greater, an illusion or a dream. Greene uses the example of pseudoscientific movements and charismatic leaders who make grandiose promises of transformation, enlightenment, or salvation. By playing on people's hopes and desires, these leaders craft an appealing narrative that makes them irresistible to followers. The appeal lies not in the tangible benefits of their promises but in the emotional gratification that people derive from believing in them. This is evident in the world of advertising, too. Companies don't just sell products, they sell dreams. A car is not just a vehicle, it's freedom, status, and adventure. A luxury watch is not just a timepiece, it represents success and sophistication. By appealing to these underlying fantasies, companies create products that people feel they must have to fulfill their desires. The success of marketing is largely driven by how well it taps into human fantasies and desires. Creating and fulfilling fantasies. Once you've recognized the power of fantasy, Greene explains how you can create and fulfill these dreams for others. This involves understanding what people want on a deeper level and providing them with a sense of progress toward that goal. The key here is not just to make promises but to make people feel like they are moving toward the realization of their dreams. An effective leader or influencer does not only promise a better future, they take steps to make people feel that they are already on the path to that future. Greene cites the example of charismatic leaders who create a vision of utopia or a glorious future. They position themselves as the guide who can lead others to this imagined world. Whether the promised outcome is realistic or not becomes secondary, the leader's ability to maintain the illusion of fulfillment is what keeps people engaged and loyal. The danger of unfulfilled fantasies. While playing to people's fantasies can be a powerful tool for gaining influence, Greene also warns that unfulfilled fantasies can turn against you. If you make promises that are too grand or too unrealistic, and fail to deliver, the disappointment can be devastating. People who have been misled by their own fantasies might feel betrayed, and your power over them will quickly dissolve. This is why it is critical to manage expectations and give people enough to keep their fantasies alive while also avoiding complete disillusionment. If you promise too much too soon, or if the fantasy becomes too outlandish, it can backfire. The key is to keep the fantasy alive by offering glimpses of progress and making people believe that the dream is always within reach, even if it's never fully realized. Crafting illusions and maintaining control. Greene highlights that to truly control power through fantasy, you must maintain the illusion that you are the one who can make people's dreams come true. This requires subtlety, finesse, and an acute understanding of human psychology. If people realize they are being manipulated, they will break free from the fantasy and see you as a fraud. Therefore, the master of this law must be careful to never reveal the extent of the manipulation. The art lies in creating an environment where people are so immersed in their fantasies that they are blind to the fact that they are being guided. Greene's examples show how great leaders and powerful figures throughout history have used this principle. Napoleon, for instance, didn't just lead armies, he crafted a narrative of destiny and grandeur around his image. He positioned himself as the one who could bring glory and transformation to his followers. His appeal wasn't based solely on military prowess but on the larger, more compelling dream he promised to his people. Practical applications of fantasy manipulation. In a more practical context, this law is often used in sales, advertising, and politics. For instance, a political leader may play to the fantasy of a strong, prosperous nation where every citizen is respected and taken care of. Similarly, a salesperson may emphasize how a product will not just fulfill a need but will make the buyer's life richer, more fulfilling, and more glamorous. Greene suggests that the best way to implement this law in your own life is to always remain aware of the fantasies people hold and to tailor your approach to align with those fantasies. Whether you are trying to influence a group of people or simply sell a product, understanding their desires and presenting them with a solution that feeds into those desires will always give you an advantage. Balancing fantasy with reality. Finally, Greene concludes by emphasizing the importance of balancing fantasy with some elements of reality. While pure fantasy can be compelling, people will eventually start to question the illusion if they don't see at least some tangible results or proof of progress. Too much fantasy without any real-world payoff can lead to disillusionment, but if you can blend the two, giving people just enough of what they want in the real world while keeping their imaginations engaged, you will maintain power. Chapter 33, Discover Each Man's Thumbscrew. In Chapter 33 of the 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene unveils a powerful technique for gaining influence over others, the ability to uncover and exploit their weaknesses, what he calls their thumbscrew. This chapter reveals the art of identifying what drives people, what causes them fear or insecurity, and what needs or desires are most likely to motivate them. Once you understand these vulnerabilities, you can leverage them to manipulate or persuade people to do your bidding. The concept of the thumbscrew. The term thumbscrew refers to a device used for torture in the past, designed to apply pressure to a person's thumb until they were forced to reveal secrets. In a metaphorical sense, Greene uses the thumbscrew to symbolize the hidden emotional triggers that drive human behavior. Everyone has one, an emotional or psychological vulnerability, whether it's a fear, a hidden desire, or a deep insecurity. Greene stresses that to gain power over someone, you must identify and exploit this weakness, applying pressure where it hurts most. For example, some people may have an overwhelming fear of failure, while others may be driven by the desire for approval or attention. Some may have unresolved childhood traumas, while others may have deep ambitions that, if stroked the right way, can be manipulated for your benefit. The key to understanding human nature, according to Greene, is recognizing that everyone has a soft spot, something they don't want to reveal but can be exploited if you know where to look. The importance of observation. The first step in discovering someone's thumbscrew is observation. Greene emphasizes the importance of studying people, paying attention to their behavior, their words, and even their body language. By being observant, you can uncover subtle clues about what they care about most or what makes them uncomfortable. For instance, a person who constantly seeks validation may be particularly vulnerable to flattery or compliments, while someone who avoids taking risks might have a deep-seated fear of failure that can be used to control their actions. Greene also suggests paying attention to people's reactions in different situations. How do they respond under stress? What are they proud of? What do they avoid talking about? By carefully watching how they navigate social interactions and how they handle pressure, you can begin to piece together their vulnerabilities. Psychological weaknesses, the thumbscrews of power. Once you have identified someone's thumbscrew, the next step is to use it to your advantage. Greene identifies several common psychological weaknesses that people often have, which can act as their thumbscrews. The desire for attention and recognition. Many people are driven by the need to feel special or important. This can be used to your advantage by offering praise, recognition, or making them feel valued. The desire for approval can be so strong that it overrides their rational decision-making process, causing them to act in ways that benefit you. Fear of failure. A deep fear of failure can cause people to become overly cautious, hesitant to take risks, or unwilling to challenge the status quo. If you know that someone has a fear of failure, you can present them with opportunities that seem safe but offer significant rewards, motivating them to follow your lead. Insecurity and low self-esteem. People with low self-esteem often seek validation from others, and this insecurity can be used to control them. Greene suggests that by making such individuals feel superior or more capable, you can gain their trust and loyalty, as they become more dependent on your approval. Greed and the desire for more. Many individuals are driven by a desire for wealth, status, or material gain. By offering something that aligns with their desires, whether it's money, power, or opportunity, you can manipulate them into taking actions that benefit you. Fear of rejection or social isolation. The fear of being excluded or rejected can drive people to do whatever it takes to fit in. If you understand that someone has this fear, you can use social dynamics to manipulate them into following your agenda, often by either including or excluding them from certain groups or circles of influence. Exploiting the thumbscrew. Greene outlines several strategies for exploiting someone's thumbscrew once you've identified it. The idea is not to be cruel or overtly malicious, but rather to use the weakness to guide the person into acting in your best interest. The key is to be subtle and patient. Create the illusion of control. People who are insecure or unsure of themselves may seek guidance or leadership. By appearing as if you have the answers or the authority to lead, you can make others feel dependent on your direction. Once they begin to rely on you, you gain control over them. Flattery and praise. If someone has a deep need for validation, offering sincere-sounding flattery can make them feel important and valued. This can cause them to lower their guard and trust you more. However, Greene advises caution, as excessive flattery can come across as insincere and backfire if done too overtly. Playing on fears. If someone has a deep-seated fear of failure, you can subtly encourage them to take calculated risks or make bold decisions by framing the situation as a safe opportunity or a way to avoid failure. This tactic involves making them feel as though they're choosing the path of least resistance, even if it's in your favor. Offering a path to success. For people driven by ambition, offering them a clear and attainable path to success can be incredibly persuasive. By presenting yourself as the key to their success, you can make them feel indebted to you and more likely to follow your instructions without question. Mastering emotional leverage. The most effective manipulation occurs when you tap into someone's emotional state, especially during moments of vulnerability or high stress. If you can identify when someone is feeling vulnerable, whether due to personal issues or challenges in their career, you can step in and provide them with what they need, while also gaining their trust and loyalty in the process. The risks of exploiting thumbscrews. While discovering and using people's thumbscrews can give you significant power, Greene warns of the dangers that come with this type of manipulation. The more you exploit someone's vulnerabilities, the more you risk alienating them once they become aware of the manipulation. People may start to feel resentful, betrayed, or humiliated once they realize they've been used. To mitigate these risks, Greene advises discretion and restraint. Use the thumbscrew only when absolutely necessary, and ensure that you're not overusing it. The most successful manipulators know how to maintain the illusion of goodwill while subtly guiding people in the direction they want. They never let their targets feel like they're being pushed into a corner or forced into a decision. Case studies and historical examples. Greene bolsters his argument with historical examples of leaders, manipulators, and strategists who have mastered the art of discovering and exploiting people's thumbscrews. One notable example is the story of Cardinal Richelieu, the chief minister to King Louis XIII of France. Richelieu was a master at exploiting the weaknesses of the French nobility, playing on their ambitions, insecurities, and fears to maintain his grip on power. He knew exactly how to divide and conquer, ensuring that no one could challenge his authority. Chapter 34, Be royal in your own fashion, act like a king to be treated like one. In Chapter 34 of the 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene emphasizes the importance of self-confidence and the powerful effect that self-perception can have on how others treat you. This law is all about projecting confidence, assertiveness, and an aura of royalty, regardless of your actual position or status in society. Greene suggests that by behaving as though you are a person of great importance, someone who commands respect and admiration, you will naturally draw that kind of treatment from others. The power of self-perception. The central idea of this law is that people's perception of you influences how they will treat you. If you present yourself as a person of value, others will begin to see you as such. By acting with dignity and confidence, and by showing that you are worthy of admiration, you elevate your status in the eyes of those around you. When you exude an air of authority and self-assurance, people instinctively begin to treat you in a way that mirrors that behavior. This concept is rooted in the idea that perception is reality. Greene asserts that how you present yourself to the world determines how others will respond. You may not have formal power, wealth, or position, but by acting as though you do, you attract the treatment that comes with it. People naturally look to authority figures or those who display regal qualities, someone who does not flinch or second-guess their decisions. This self-assurance gives off a vibe of control and influence, making others believe that they should respect and serve you. Projecting the royal aura. One of the key elements of acting like royalty is projecting an aura of invincibility and self-sufficiency. Kings and queens, regardless of the historical period, often carried themselves with the belief that they were above ordinary concerns and that their time was valuable. Similarly, Greene suggests that you should adopt this same mindset. When you display an air of importance and independence, others will be inclined to respect you because they subconsciously see you as someone who deserves such treatment. This can be done in a number of ways. For example, avoid appearing desperate for approval or attention. By keeping your distance and maintaining a composed, confident demeanor, you force others to treat you with the same deference they would show to someone in a high position. One important aspect of this law is not to appear needy or weak, qualities that invite disrespect. People are more likely to follow those who seem to lead themselves with strength and certainty. Avoiding lowly behavior. Greene advises that you should always avoid behaving in ways that are beneath your royal persona. This includes engaging in petty arguments, indulging in gossip, or compromising your integrity for short-term gains. These behaviors diminish your stature and signal to others that you are not the kind of person to be taken seriously. When you act like someone who is above such trivialities, others will naturally start to treat you with the respect and reverence that royalty commands. Greene uses historical figures to illustrate this point. For example, he references Napoleon Bonaparte, who, despite his humble beginnings, presented himself as a man of destiny. By dressing the part and adopting the posture of a ruler, Napoleon became a figure of power that others had no choice but to acknowledge. Napoleon's success in projecting his own importance and deserving of respect is a testament to the power of acting with the confidence of royalty. The psychology of royalty, why it works. The idea behind acting like royalty is grounded in the psychology of human behavior. People are naturally inclined to defer to authority, and when you project that authority, even without an official title or position, others will begin to recognize your rank. Just as a monarch commands respect due to their status, anyone who adopts an air of royalty is seen as deserving of similar treatment. This works not because of any actual superiority, but because people tend to look for leaders or individuals who display that they are in control and deserve to be followed. Greene emphasizes the importance of self-respect. When you respect yourself, others are more likely to follow suit. If you treat yourself as if you have high value, others will see that and act accordingly. The psychology here is simple. People often emulate the behavior of those who display strong character. If you want to be treated like a king, you must first begin to treat yourself as though you are one. Mastering the art of dignity and distance. A significant part of this law involves maintaining dignity and distance. You must never seem too eager or over-reliant on others, and you should avoid being easily accessible. Kings and rulers, throughout history, often created a sense of mystique and distance between themselves and their subjects. This distance made them seem more valuable, more important, and ultimately, more deserving of respect. This principle can be applied in modern settings as well. For instance, in business or social situations, you should avoid being overly available or constantly seeking validation. When you stand apart from others, maintaining your own sense of worth, it causes others to view you as someone who deserves admiration and attention. People will treat you as you treat yourself, and treating yourself as valuable, important, and royal is the key to gaining respect. The dangers of acting above your station. Although Greene advocates for acting royal, he also cautions against going too far. If you act as though you are completely out of touch with the reality of your situation, people may begin to resent you. If you display too much arrogance or condescension, you risk alienating others and losing their respect. The key is to strike a balance, remain dignified, composed, and assertive without becoming excessively pretentious or disconnected. For instance, you may adopt an air of confidence and authority, but it's important not to isolate yourself so much that you lose connections with those around you. Your royal demeanor should be one of strength and composure, but also tempered with humility and understanding when necessary. It's about giving off the impression that you are deserving of respect, without making others feel like you are untouchable or superior in an offensive way. Case studies and historical examples. Greene draws on historical examples to further illustrate this law. He recounts the life of Queen Elizabeth I of England, who, despite being a woman in a male-dominated world, was able to command immense respect. She projected strength, grace, and the belief that her rule was divinely ordained. By acting with the certainty of a monarch, Elizabeth was able to unite her people and create a powerful legacy, showing that one does not need to be born into royalty to carry themselves as a king or queen. Another example Greene offers is Catherine de Medici, who, as the Queen of France, understood the power of her royal demeanor. She acted with poise, using subtlety and self-control to maintain her influence in the court. Even when she faced political challenges, her confidence and the way she presented herself as a ruler allowed her to maintain her power and manipulate situations in her favor. Chapter 35, Master the Art of Timing. In Chapter 35 of the 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene discusses the critical importance of timing in the pursuit of power. The ability to act at the right moment, to sense when an opportunity is ripe, and to wait for the perfect moment to strike, is a key trait of powerful individuals. Timing is not just about quick decision-making or acting impulsively, it's about understanding the flow of events and manipulating them to your advantage. The concept of timing. Timing can be thought of as the rhythm of life itself, the ebb and flow of opportunities, the rise and fall of power dynamics. Just like a skilled musician who knows when to play each note in harmony with the others, a person who masters the art of timing knows when to move, when to wait, and when to act decisively. Timing is more than luck, it's the result of being observant, patient, and strategic. Greene emphasizes that there are moments when action is necessary, but there are also moments when doing nothing is the wisest course. To know when to act and when to wait is the essence of mastery over timing. If you act too soon, you risk failure. If you act too late, you may miss out on your opportunity. Understanding the natural rhythm of events around you, and learning how to anticipate the right moment, is the key to timing. Patience and waiting for the right moment. One of the key insights from this chapter is the importance of patience. Timing doesn't just mean knowing when to act, it often means having the patience to wait until the conditions are right. This could mean waiting for an opportunity to present itself naturally or waiting for your opponent to make a mistake. Greene draws on historical examples to illustrate how patience in timing has led to great successes. He references Napoleon Bonaparte and his ability to carefully plan his moves and wait for the right moment to strike. Napoleon didn't rush into battles, he carefully observed his enemies and waited for the opportune moment when they were vulnerable. This strategy was often what made him a brilliant tactician and ultimately contributed to his success in war. The lesson here is clear: patience is a form of power. The ability to wait for the right moment to act gives you an edge over those who rush into decisions without understanding the timing. Seizing the moment, the power of decisive action. While patience is important, Greene also emphasizes that once the moment has arrived, you must act decisively. If you hesitate or second-guess yourself, you risk losing the opportunity. In other words, timing requires action at the right time, and that action must be quick and confident. One example from the book is J.P. Morgan, the famous financier. He is said to have recognized the right moment to buy stocks during a financial panic. When others were fearful and paralyzed, Morgan moved swiftly to acquire assets at low prices, understanding that the moment of crisis would pass and the value of those assets would rise again. Greene emphasizes that acting decisively is a mark of a true master of timing. The people who know when to act and how to act with confidence are the ones who rise to power and influence. The importance of reading the signs. Mastering timing requires a deep awareness of the world around you. This means being observant and reading the signs that indicate when an opportunity is approaching. Timing doesn't always come from the outside, it also comes from understanding your own internal rhythm and knowing when you're ready to act. Greene suggests that those who are able to read subtle cues, whether in business, relationships, or politics, are able to identify the perfect moment to make their move. This requires being able to see the long-term picture, recognizing the trends and patterns that govern events. It's not about relying on luck, but rather about seeing things in a way that others cannot. The right moment in relationships and power dynamics. Greene also talks about the role of timing in relationships and power dynamics. Often, relationships unfold in cycles, with moments of closeness followed by moments of distance. Understanding these cycles is crucial for maintaining power. In personal relationships, for example, timing your actions or words correctly can enhance your influence. Being too eager to please or give in too soon can weaken your position, while waiting for the right moment to express yourself can strengthen your bond and give you more leverage. Similarly, in power struggles, timing can often make the difference between success and failure. Greene uses the example of Machiavelli, who understood that to maintain power, one must be able to time their actions with precision. Machiavelli was keenly aware of how moments of tension and instability could be exploited for one's benefit, making timing a key factor in political maneuvering. Understanding the rhythms of nature and life. A central theme in Chapter 35 is the idea that timing is not just a human skill but one that aligns with the natural rhythms of life. Greene argues that the greatest power players are those who align their actions with these natural cycles. Just as the tides rise and fall, opportunities also come and go in cycles. The art of timing involves aligning yourself with the natural course of events. For instance, in nature, animals know when to hunt and when to lie in wait. The same applies to people in the world of power, you must know when to act and when to retreat. Greene's point is that by tuning into these rhythms, whether in business, politics, or personal relationships, you can time your moves for maximum impact. The pitfalls of poor timing. Timing is a powerful tool, but poor timing can be disastrous. Greene highlights that when you act prematurely or fail to recognize the signs of change, you risk overextending yourself. Poor timing can make you seem desperate, reckless, or lacking in control. It can also alienate potential allies, as people are unlikely to support someone who is perceived as acting rashly. One historical example Greene uses is Charles I of England, whose poor timing in attempting to raise taxes and push political agendas without considering the sentiment of the people led to his downfall. His inability to read the signs and act at the right moment created resistance and hostility, ultimately costing him his throne. Strategies for mastering timing. To master the art of timing, Greene offers several strategies. First, he suggests that you should always be aware of the environment around you. Be patient, observe, and wait for the right moment. Second, he stresses that you should avoid rushing your decisions, no matter how urgent things may seem. Sometimes, waiting can be the best action you can take. Additionally, Greene advises that you should cultivate the ability to read people and situations. Understand what others are thinking and how they might react to your actions. By doing this, you can anticipate how they will respond to your moves, and time your actions accordingly. Chapter 36, Disdain Things You Cannot Have, Ignoring Them is the Best Revenge. In Chapter 36 of the 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene addresses the psychological power of indifference and how mastering the art of disdain can help you maintain control in situations where you might otherwise feel powerless or frustrated. The core idea is simple but powerful: the best way to deal with things you cannot have or achieve is to ignore them, treating them as beneath you. This not only protects your self-esteem but also gives you a distinct advantage in any power struggle. The power of disdain. Greene begins by explaining that in the struggle for power, it is inevitable that there will be things you want but cannot have, goals that remain just out of reach, or enemies who seem to thrive despite your best efforts. Most people, when faced with this frustration, react with envy, bitterness, or obsession. They waste their energy constantly thinking about what they lack or what they cannot control. However, Greene argues that this only weakens them and gives power to the very thing they despise. Instead, the true master of power adopts a stance of disdain, not by showing open contempt, but by completely ignoring those things, treating them as irrelevant, unworthy of attention, and beneath their concern. This approach is disarming, because it robs the other party of the satisfaction of seeing you struggle or suffer in response to what you cannot have. Essentially, you rise above the situation and remove yourself from the emotional turmoil that comes with desire and frustration. Turning indifference into power. Greene illustrates the power of disdain with a famous historical example, the story of Louis XIV of France, who, when faced with rivals and competitors, adopted an attitude of absolute indifference. Instead of fighting back or obsessing over their actions, he simply ignored them. He demonstrated that he was above the petty concerns of those who sought to challenge him. His lack of response created an aura of power and confidence that made him appear invincible and untouchable. This technique works because, in the world of power, your emotional responses and your investment in what others are doing give them a form of control over you. If you can ignore the things you cannot have or cannot control, you strip your enemies and rivals of the power to provoke or manipulate you. Psychology of the ignored target. One of the most potent effects of disdain is psychological. When you ignore something, especially when that thing is desperately trying to get your attention, it creates a sense of emptiness and frustration in the ignored party. They may try harder, attempting to provoke you, but when you refuse to acknowledge their efforts, you make them feel insignificant. It's a form of silent revenge that doesn't require any direct confrontation or effort, just the decision to remain aloof and unaffected. Greene discusses how this technique can be applied not just in political or business power plays, but in personal relationships as well. When someone wrongs you or stands in your way, responding with anger or obsession is a sign of weakness. Instead, distancing yourself emotionally and mentally is a far more powerful response. Silence, detachment, and refusal to engage can often force the other party to question their own worth or significance in your life. When disdain becomes desperation. While disdain can be a highly effective strategy, Greene warns that it must be executed with care. There's a fine line between ignoring someone and coming across as petty or desperate. If your disdain is too obvious or if you overdo it, you risk making it seem like you care more than you let on. Disdain should always appear effortless and natural. Moreover, it's important to remember that the goal is not to provoke a direct confrontation. If you openly flaunt your indifference and make it a point to humiliate or belittle others, it can backfire. The true power of disdain lies in its subtlety. If done well, the target may never even realize they've been dismissed. The dangers of desperation. In this chapter, Greene also addresses the idea of desperation, particularly the type that emerges when people try too hard to obtain something they cannot have. Desperation can manifest in many forms, whether it's through constant striving for success, chasing after an unattainable goal, or getting emotionally involved with someone who doesn't reciprocate your feelings. Desperation leads to weakness, making you appear eager, frustrated, and vulnerable to manipulation. Greene argues that by not appearing desperate, by showing that you are above it all, you not only protect yourself but also elevate your status. People are naturally drawn to individuals who seem confident, composed, and unbothered by external pressures. The more you act like you don't care about something, the more people will assume it doesn't affect you, and the more you will gain power over them. Practical applications of disdain. The key takeaway from this chapter is how to apply the principle of disdain in your daily life. Whether you're dealing with a rival at work, a competitor in business, or even a personal situation where you feel slighted or overlooked, the power of ignoring and treating things as unworthy of your attention is incredibly effective. Greene offers practical advice for how to implement this principle without appearing cold or callous. First, you must develop an inner sense of peace and detachment. Learn to let go of the need to control every aspect of your life or every situation you encounter. Second, you must exhibit composure and confidence. If you maintain your emotional control and don't react to provocations, you naturally exude the type of power that makes others respect you. Lastly, you should avoid obsessing over things you cannot have. Once you stop chasing after what is beyond your reach, you free yourself to focus on what is truly important, improving your position and advancing your interests. Revenge without action. Perhaps one of the most striking aspects of Chapter 36 is Greene's assertion that ignoring something or someone can be the ultimate form of revenge. In traditional ideas of revenge, we often think of retaliation or action, but Greene turns this idea on its head. True revenge lies not in confrontation, but in silently rendering your enemy insignificant. This form of revenge requires no direct action or energy spent on your opponent. By simply showing indifference, you demonstrate that the enemy has no power over you, that they don't even merit your attention. It's a form of emotional and psychological control that forces the other party to deal with their own frustration, helplessness, or self-doubt, which can be far more devastating than any external act of retribution. Chapter 37, Create Compelling Spectacles. In Chapter 37 of the 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene discusses the powerful psychological tactic of creating compelling spectacles. He emphasizes that visual displays and dramatic gestures can profoundly impact how others perceive you, helping you manipulate their emotions, capture their attention, and ultimately influence their actions. Spectacles are a form of communication that transcend words, creating memorable impressions that resonate long after the event has passed. The power of visual influence. Greene starts by explaining how humans are naturally drawn to spectacle and drama. We live in a world saturated with information, and for any individual to stand out, they must offer something that cuts through the noise. A spectacle, Something that's larger than life, unexpected, or visually striking, has the power to draw attention and make a lasting impression. Spectacles captivate the senses and stir emotions, often bypassing rational thinking and triggering powerful responses. In the context of power, spectacles create an aura of greatness, authority, and influence. They are not just about physical displays or grand gestures, but about creating a narrative that people are eager to buy into. When done effectively, a spectacle can overshadow your competitors, making them seem insignificant by comparison. It also has the ability to reinforce your own status, solidifying your dominance in a given situation. The role of drama and emotion. One key element of creating compelling spectacles is drama. Drama appeals to the emotional side of people's minds, which is often more powerful than logic in decision-making. The most successful leaders and figures in history, whether in politics, business, or culture, have understood that people are swayed by what they feel, not necessarily by what they know or understand. A compelling spectacle can stir up feelings of admiration, fear, or awe, and these emotions linger far longer than any intellectual argument. Greene uses historical examples to highlight how great leaders created powerful spectacles that captivated the public's imagination. For instance, he cites Napoleon Bonaparte, who understood the importance of dramatic imagery in shaping his image. Napoleon's victory parades, his iconic public appearances, and even the art commissioned to depict him were all designed to create an image of a larger-than-life figure. The public didn't just see a leader, they saw a myth, a symbol of power. The formula for creating a compelling spectacle. To create an effective spectacle, Greene outlines a formula that can be adapted to various contexts. First and foremost, it's important to control the narrative. Spectacles work best when they align with your larger goals and message. For example, if you're trying to portray strength, a display of military might or a bold, unexpected action might work. If you're attempting to portray wisdom or foresight, a display of knowledge or a visionary statement can have a similar effect. Contrast is another essential element of a successful spectacle. A dramatic visual contrast between you and others is key to standing out. Greene notes that it's not enough to simply create an impressive display, what makes it compelling is the way it contrasts with ordinary expectations. By providing a shocking or unexpected visual experience, you spark curiosity and deepen the impact. This could mean taking a bold risk or doing something that shocks your audience out of their complacency. Another aspect of a compelling spectacle is timing. Greene emphasizes that a spectacle must be well timed to have its full impact. If it's done too early or too late, its effect can be diminished. Timing a spectacle right when people need something to rally around or when they are most vulnerable to emotional manipulation maximizes its potential to leave a lasting impression. Examples of spectacles in history. Greene provides multiple examples of historical figures who used spectacles to their advantage. He examines Queen Elizabeth I of England, who understood the power of spectacle and used it to project an image of invulnerability and regal grandeur. She would dress in elaborate gowns, sit in imposing positions, and use extravagant public events to create an aura of divine right and power. Another example is Julius Caesar, who masterfully used spectacle to enhance his status. One of his most notable spectacles was his triumphal parades, where he would parade through the streets of Rome with his military victories on display. The people were not only awed by the displays but also saw them as signs of Caesar's invincibility. These spectacles helped elevate him from a mere military general to a figure who seemed above the common realm, further solidifying his path to ultimate power. In modern contexts, Greene points out that successful individuals, such as Steve Jobs, have also harnessed the power of spectacle to shape public perception. Jobs' product launches, for example, were meticulously crafted to create drama, anticipation, and excitement. The reality distortion field he created around his products made them feel revolutionary, creating a spectacle around Apple that elevated the company and its leader to an almost mythical status. The dark side of spectacle. While creating compelling spectacles can certainly be a tool for power, Greene also discusses the potential risks and pitfalls associated with this tactic. The most significant danger is that a spectacle can easily backfire if it's poorly executed or lacks substance. If the spectacle is too much of a diversion or doesn't live up to its promises, it can create a backlash. People may begin to see through the illusion, and what was once an awe-inspiring display can become a source of ridicule or disdain. Another risk is that the spectacle can lead to overexposure. Greene points out that if you constantly rely on spectacles to gain attention, you may lose their effectiveness over time. People may become desensitized to your displays, and what once seemed impressive may now seem predictable or tiresome. Therefore, the best leaders know when to strategically pull back and when to create another show-stopping moment that will captivate their audience anew. Using spectacle in modern times. In today's media-driven world, the power of spectacle is more relevant than ever. Greene argues that the tools for creating spectacles are now in the hands of everyone, thanks to the rise of social media, television, and other visual platforms. Today, a carefully curated image or a viral video can create the same kind of emotional response that Caesar's triumphs once did. This gives modern figures, from politicians to influencers, the opportunity to shape their own image in a way that has never been possible before. However, the challenge now is the oversaturation of spectacles. The public is constantly bombarded with new content, making it harder to create something that truly stands out. For this reason, Greene stresses the importance of authenticity in spectacle. While the spectacle must be dramatic, it should still be rooted in something real, whether that's a product, an achievement, or an idea. Spectacles built on hollow or false pretenses will inevitably crumble. Chapter 38, Think as you like but behave like others. In Chapter 38 of the 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene discusses the importance of fitting in with the group while secretly maintaining your individuality. The essence of this law is that while it's crucial to think independently and develop your own ideas, it's equally important to conform to the norms and behaviors of the people around you. This duality, thinking as you like while behaving like others, can be a powerful tool for navigating social situations, particularly when you're seeking influence, power, or acceptance within a group. The importance of appearing conventional. The chapter begins by highlighting a key psychological insight: people are sensitive to deviation. They tend to feel uncomfortable around those who stand out too much or refuse to follow the expected norms. This is especially true in social settings, workplaces, and political environments, where group cohesion is often valued over individual expression. If you act too differently, you risk being isolated or ostracized, which can limit your influence and success. Greene suggests that conformity can be a powerful weapon, allowing you to blend in and gain the trust of those around you. By adopting the outward behaviors, values, and attitudes of the group, you avoid creating friction and remain in a safe zone. This gives you the opportunity to observe, learn, and strategically align yourself with the social power structures at play. One of the key benefits of behaving like others is that it allows you to build relationships and gain favor. People are naturally drawn to those who seem familiar and trustworthy, and acting in line with their expectations makes it easier to connect and influence them. This, however, doesn't mean you have to completely abandon your individuality. Rather, you must master the art of discretion and maintain a low profile while advancing your own goals. The dangers of standing out. Greene explores the risks involved with standing out and being too much of an individual. While independent thinkers are often revered in theory, in practice, those who don't fit in with the group can become targets of suspicion or even disdain. He cites historical examples of individuals who suffered because of their unwillingness to conform to social norms or expectations. The famous writer and philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson is a good example. While he was highly original in his thinking, he often alienated others because his behavior and ideas were too radical for the time. In contrast, People who blend in and observe social conventions often avoid unnecessary conflict. They understand that to climb the social ladder or gain favor in a new environment, it's essential to learn the unwritten rules of behavior and master the art of discretion. Greene stresses that this doesn't mean compromising your values or beliefs, but simply understanding the value of situational awareness and knowing when to hold back or blend in. The strategy of the chameleon. One of the most powerful tactics described in this chapter is the ability to be a chameleon, someone who adapts their behavior based on their surroundings while retaining control over their internal thoughts and actions. The chameleon blends into the environment without drawing attention to themselves, gaining the trust and favor of those around them. This strategy can be especially effective when you're dealing with powerful or influential groups that demand conformity. Greene explains that a chameleon doesn't simply mimic others, they strategically choose when and where to align with the group. This ability to assimilate while retaining autonomy allows the chameleon to keep their intentions hidden. The key is to understand the value of compromise in behavior while maintaining your mental independence. This way, you can remain part of the group while also working behind the scenes to advance your own agenda. An example from history that Greene uses to illustrate this concept is Catherine the Great of Russia. She was born into a relatively insignificant family, yet she was able to navigate the treacherous political environment of the Russian court by adapting to the behavior of those in power. She conformed to the expectations of the ruling class while simultaneously maintaining a deep commitment to her own vision of what Russia could become. Through this subtle balance, she ultimately rose to power. Blending in to succeed in business and politics. Greene also discusses how this strategy plays out in the business and political arenas. In both fields, success often depends on your ability to blend in, align with the prevailing attitudes, and gain the trust of influential figures. The ability to behave like others in these settings allows you to move seamlessly through networks, creating opportunities for yourself without drawing unwanted attention. In business, for instance, an ambitious professional must understand the hierarchy and culture of their company. They must follow the norms of their superiors, display appropriate deference, and avoid challenging the established order. At the same time, by observing and learning from the behavior of others, they can strategically position themselves for promotions, opportunities, and influence. Similarly, in politics, aspiring leaders must understand the nuances of power dynamics and the behavior of their peers. Whether they're operating in a small local government or a global stage, politicians must learn the rules of engagement and act in ways that align with public expectations. Even if their personal views differ from the majority, outwardly adapting to the collective behavior can win them credibility and acceptance. Maintaining your individuality. While it's important to behave like others, Greene stresses that this does not mean you have to completely suppress your individuality. The secret is in knowing how to compartmentalize. You can think for yourself and develop unique ideas and strategies in private, but when interacting with others, you must be able to adapt your behavior to fit in. This requires an understanding of when to assert your opinions and when to remain silent or conform to the group. It's also vital to remember that perception is reality. Others may never know what you're really thinking if you're able to mask it effectively. By appearing to act in accordance with social expectations, you can maintain your position in the group while still privately advancing your own objectives. This balance between internal and external worlds is a hallmark of power and influence. Mastering the art of discretion. Greene concludes the chapter by discussing the importance of discretion. It's critical not only to blend in with the crowd but to also hide your true intentions and desires. To gain power, you must learn when to speak up and when to remain silent, when to blend in and when to stand out. The more discreet you are, the more likely you are to succeed. Discretion allows you to operate under the radar and avoid unnecessary conflict. It helps you preserve your power and use it strategically when the time is right. Whether you're in business, politics, or any other field, discretion is a skill that allows you to observe without being observed, speak without revealing too much, and move through the world without leaving a trail of your true intentions. Chapter 39, Stir Up Waters to Catch Fish. In Chapter 39 of the 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene explores the power of chaos and confusion in the context of achieving influence and control. This law, stir up waters to catch fish, teaches that sometimes, in order to gain power, you need to create confusion or turmoil in your surroundings. By introducing unpredictability or stirring emotions, you can manipulate the situation to your advantage. This tactic is about creating distraction and disorder, allowing you to operate in a way that takes others off guard, leaving them vulnerable to your influence. The role of chaos in power. Greene begins by describing the value of chaos in power dynamics. While most people tend to avoid disruption, those who master this law recognize that confusion can create opportunities for control. The basic idea is that in calm, ordered environments, everyone is focused, and it's much harder to gain an edge. However, in a situation of chaos or disarray, people become more vulnerable to influence because their attention is scattered, their judgment clouded, and their ability to make strategic decisions impaired. By stirring the waters, whether in a business, political, or social setting, you can create mental fog that distracts others from seeing clearly. This allows you to slip into their blind spots and advance your own agenda without being detected. It's a tactic that requires both timing and subtlety. If you act too openly or obviously, you risk losing control of the situation and making yourself a target. The key to success is to stir just enough chaos to create confusion but not enough to lose the advantage. Mastering emotional manipulation. One of the core techniques described in this chapter is the use of emotional manipulation to stir up confusion. Greene argues that emotions, particularly anger, fear, and jealousy, can cloud judgment and cause people to act impulsively. By understanding how to provoke or heighten emotions, you can control how others react in situations that are important to your goals. For example, Greene talks about creating emotional turbulence by making calculated statements or taking actions that trigger strong emotional responses from your rivals or competitors. When emotions run high, logic and reason tend to take a back seat. People start making decisions based on feelings rather than rational analysis, and this is when you can step in to guide the outcome in your favor. The art of distraction. A major aspect of stirring the waters is the ability to distract others. Greene notes that in order to get what you want, you must sometimes draw attention away from your true intentions. Distraction works because it shifts focus, making it easier for you to act in ways that would otherwise attract suspicion. Whether it's by creating a false narrative or initiating a dramatic situation, you can divert people's attention from what really matters. The key here is to understand the underlying psychology of distraction. For example, in business negotiations or political strategies, if you create a diversion, such as a surprising move or a controversial statement, people will focus on that while you quietly work on your goals behind the scenes. Greene also emphasizes the importance of timing in this tactic. You must strike when others are most susceptible to being distracted. Historical examples of stirring the waters. Greene provides several historical examples to illustrate how stirring the waters has been used effectively by influential figures. One notable example is that of Louis XI, the King of France, who was known for his ability to create confusion and manipulate others through psychological tactics. Louis would often feign weakness or vulnerability to mislead his enemies, allowing him to gain power through strategic deception. By creating a false sense of security in his rivals, he could then move swiftly to outmaneuver them. Another example comes from the world of business. The famous financier J.P. Morgan understood the power of creating chaos when necessary. At one point, Morgan orchestrated a panic in the stock market by spreading rumors of an impending financial collapse. This stirred fear and confusion among investors, causing them to sell off their stocks in a panic. In the midst of this chaos, Morgan swooped in and bought up valuable assets at a fraction of their original price. By creating the right conditions of disorder, he was able to capitalize on the panic and consolidate more power. Manipulating public perception. Greene also touches on the idea of manipulating public perception to stir up the waters. Whether in politics, business, or personal relationships, creating confusion often involves controlling how others see things. If you can alter the narrative or shift the focus of a situation, you can manipulate how people perceive it, leading them to react in ways that favor your plans. A prime example of this is political propaganda. Leaders and governments often use fear and uncertainty as tools to manipulate the public. By exaggerating threats or fabricating crises, they can create an environment where the population becomes dependent on their leadership, thus consolidating power. In these cases, the more you stir up fear and confusion, the more control you gain over the narrative and, ultimately, the public. The dangers of overdoing it. However, Greene also warns of the dangers of overusing this tactic. While chaos can be a powerful tool, it can also backfire if not handled carefully. Stirring the waters too much can lead to a situation where you lose control of the chaos, and it starts to affect you negatively. If the confusion becomes too overwhelming, people may begin to distrust your actions, and you could find yourself caught in the very storm you created. Therefore, it's crucial to know when to stop. The goal is not to create endless chaos but to create a temporary disturbance that will allow you to achieve your objectives. Once the goal is met, you must quickly restore some level of order to avoid being caught in the repercussions of your own actions. The ability to know when to pull back and stabilize the situation is essential for this strategy to work. Chapter 40, Desire, Not the Object Itself. In Chapter 40 of the 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene delves into the intricate relationship between desire and power, offering insight into how one can control and manipulate the desires of others to achieve personal gain. The central thesis of this chapter is that true power does not come from obtaining the object of desire itself, but from mastering the ability to manipulate the desire for it. Understanding this principle is essential for anyone who seeks to gain an edge in situations involving competition, influence, or negotiation. The nature of desire. Greene begins by explaining the psychological nature of desire. Desire is a powerful force that drives people to act, often leading them to make decisions based on emotion rather than logic. This force can be incredibly strong, and people are often unaware of how deeply their desires influence their behavior. Desire is not always about the object itself, the material possession or the outcome, but about the feeling or status associated with attaining it. This means that if you can manipulate the way people feel about the object of their desire, you can gain control over them without even needing the object yourself. For example, people often desire things because they believe that owning or achieving them will bring them happiness, status, or power. However, it is not the object itself that creates these feelings, it is the idea or illusion of the object that fuels the desire. By understanding this, you can gain influence over others by manipulating their perceptions of what they want. The illusion of the object. Greene uses the concept of the illusion of desire to explain how power can be gained without actually possessing the desired object. He argues that desire is often based on illusion and fantasy. People are not as focused on the object of their desire as they are on the idea of having it. This distinction is crucial because it shows that people's motivations are tied to their emotional and psychological needs, which can be influenced without directly intervening in the object of desire. One classic example that Greene provides is that of artists and creative pursuits. An artist's work is often fueled by a desire for recognition and fame rather than the inherent value of the work itself. Similarly, an individual in a business or political environment may desire power, influence, or wealth, but their desire is more connected to the idea of being powerful than to any specific material possession. By understanding this, you can create emotional landscapes where others chase after illusions that you control. Creating desire in others. One of the most powerful aspects of this law is the ability to manipulate the desires of others. Greene emphasizes that you can generate power over people by creating a desire in them that is difficult to attain. This is often accomplished through the use of mystique, temptation, and strategic withholding. By controlling the availability of something that others desire, you increase its value, making it more coveted. This principle can be applied in many different settings, from business negotiations to personal relationships. For instance, in business, by withholding information or creating scarcity, you can make your product or service seem more desirable to potential customers. In relationships, by playing hard to get, you can heighten your value in the eyes of others, leading them to desire you more intensely. The power of mystery. A key tactic for creating desire is to remain mysterious. People are naturally drawn to things they cannot fully comprehend or obtain easily. Greene highlights the effectiveness of maintaining a sense of mystique about yourself or your intentions. By being elusive and withholding information, you increase your value in the eyes of others. They are drawn to the unknown, and the desire to know more or to possess something becomes more intense. The key to using mystery effectively is to balance the amount of information you reveal. Too much openness can diminish desire, while too little can make people uninterested. By strategically revealing and concealing information, you can keep others on edge, constantly longing for more. This not only creates a sense of intrigue but also allows you to control the flow of desire. The dangers of focusing on the object. While manipulating desire is powerful, Greene also warns of the dangers of focusing too much on the object itself. People often become obsessed with the idea of obtaining something and fail to see the consequences of that obsession. Greene illustrates this with examples from history, showing how rulers and leaders who focused too intently on their desires were often blinded to the larger picture and became vulnerable. For instance, the story of King Louis XVI of France is used as a cautionary tale. His obsession with the luxuries of Versailles and his personal desires for comfort led him to ignore the growing unrest in his kingdom. This focus on the object, whether it was wealth, luxury, or personal satisfaction, distracted him from the deeper needs of his people and his ultimate downfall. Greene argues that one must be cautious not to become so fixated on the object of desire that you lose sight of the power dynamics at play and the bigger picture. Desire as a tool for influence. Greene also highlights how desire can be used as a tool for influence in various aspects of life. He discusses how certain individuals and groups have used psychological manipulation to cultivate strong desires in others, turning those desires into tools for personal gain. Whether it's creating a sense of longing in a romantic relationship, a business negotiation, or a political strategy, the ability to shape what people want is a fundamental aspect of wielding power. By focusing on creating long-term desires rather than immediate satisfaction, you can cultivate a sense of dependence in others. People will become more willing to follow your lead or act in ways that benefit you if they believe that satisfying their desires lies in your hands. Whether it's a product, a service, or even a personal relationship, once you position yourself as the key to their satisfaction, you can begin to control the flow of desire, thereby influencing their actions. The strategic use of scarcity. One of the key elements of this chapter is the concept of scarcity. By strategically making something seem rare or difficult to attain, you increase its desirability. This is why luxury goods, for instance, often appear in limited editions or have restricted access. By presenting something as scarce, you make it more attractive, as people instinctively desire what they cannot easily have. Greene also emphasizes that scarcity works not just with physical objects, but with attention and access as well. If you withhold your attention or make your presence felt only at strategic moments, you can increase your value in the eyes of others. By making yourself scarce, you create a desire for your time and energy, which others will seek out more urgently. Chapter 41, Master the Art of Timing. In Chapter 41 of the 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene explores the critical yet often overlooked skill of timing. The chapter, aptly titled Master the Art of Timing, emphasizes that true power is not just about the actions you take, but about knowing when to take them. The element of timing can make or break an opportunity, turning what might seem like a moment of failure into a glorious success, or vice versa. This chapter is dedicated to helping individuals understand that in many situations, it's not just about what you do but about when you do it. Whether in business, personal life, or even politics, mastering timing is one of the most potent tools for achieving lasting success. The importance of timing. Greene opens the chapter by discussing how impatience and the failure to recognize the right moment can lead to missed opportunities. Timing, in essence, is a balancing act, waiting for the perfect moment to strike, but also being prepared to act quickly when that moment arrives. People who act too hastily often rush into decisions that they later regret, while those who are overly cautious miss the window of opportunity. In both cases, timing plays a significant role in the outcome. Greene points out that many successful people throughout history have relied on strategic patience, waiting for the opportune moment to act. One example that Greene uses is the story of Napoleon Bonaparte, who mastered the art of timing on the battlefield. Napoleon often chose to act when his enemies were unprepared or distracted. This sense of timing helped him win critical battles and secure his empire's power. But it wasn't just about the battle, it was also about understanding when to withdraw and when to push forward. His ability to sense the right moment to take action was what set him apart from many of his contemporaries. The power of patience. Patience is a central theme in this chapter. Greene stresses that patience is not just about waiting idly for the right moment but about actively observing the environment, analyzing situations, and understanding when to make your move. Those who can wait without being impatient, yet ready to act when the time is right, have the advantage. This notion of strategic patience is particularly powerful in negotiations or in any situation where you are vying for power. Instead of rushing to secure immediate gains, you let the situation unfold, allowing you to gather more information and position yourself for success. By practicing patience, you give yourself the freedom to adapt, and you allow the conditions to become more favorable before taking action. Knowing when to act and when to retreat. Greene also discusses the delicate balance between acting too soon and waiting too long. It's essential to learn when to strike decisively and when to hold back. An important element of timing involves knowing when to retreat or withdraw, allowing the opposition to overextend themselves. In many situations, making a bold move too soon can result in unnecessary resistance or backlash. Alternatively, waiting too long can mean missing the opportunity altogether. Greene's principle is to always be alert to the ebb and flow of events, understanding when conditions are favorable for action and when they are not. He shares the example of the Soviet Union's strategic retreats during World War II, where the retreat itself was a calculated move. It wasn't about giving up, but rather about preserving strength for future engagements, waiting for an opportune time to counterattack. In the realm of power, sometimes the greatest strength lies in stepping back. Timing in action, the example of the market. A practical application of timing is seen in the financial world. Greene illustrates how the most successful investors understand the cyclical nature of markets, recognizing patterns and learning when to buy and sell based on these cycles. Those who can time the market correctly, waiting for the right moment to invest or sell, tend to reap greater rewards than those who act impulsively or fail to see the patterns of timing. In one example, Greene discusses the art of market timing, where investors understand the value of patience and insight. They avoid acting based on fear or greed and instead focus on the long-term picture. This kind of foresight allows them to profit during downturns when others panic, and similarly, they avoid getting caught in bubbles when the market is overheated. Just as investors must read the market and understand its rhythms, so too must those in power understand the timing of their moves. Seizing the moment. The key takeaway from this chapter is that timing allows you to seize the moment when it arises. Greene emphasizes that those who are skilled at timing have an uncanny ability to sense when the tide has turned in their favor. This ability to read the environment is a skill that can be learned and refined with experience. People who act impulsively may rush their opportunities or miss them altogether. However, those who have mastered the art of timing know how to recognize the precise moment when conditions are right for a bold move. Greene uses the example of King Louis XIV of France to show how timing played a role in his reign. Louis understood the power of timing in consolidating his authority and manipulating his court. His ability to position himself as the ultimate source of power in France was not about brute force or dominance but about carefully calibrating the timing of his decisions. Whether it was the construction of Versailles or his strategic management of rival factions, Louis XIV's mastery of timing allowed him to maintain control and strengthen his rule. The role of external forces. External factors play a significant role in timing, and Greene highlights the importance of being aware of the forces at play in any situation. Understanding the timing of larger, external events can give you an advantage. In many cases, external circumstances can shape the right moment to act, and recognizing these factors can help you navigate complex situations more effectively. Greene also suggests that the ability to recognize these forces is a skill that can be developed by observing others and studying history. For example, recognizing when a cultural shift is about to occur or when a political environment is changing can give you the insight to act ahead of the curve. Chapter 42, Strike the Shepherd and the Sheep Will Scatter. In Chapter 42 of the 48 Laws of Power, titled, Strike the Shepherd and the Sheep Will Scatter, Robert Greene explores the strategy of targeting the leader or central figure in any group or organization to disrupt its cohesion and power. By focusing on the head of the group, the followers, often referred to as the sheep, will become disoriented, lose their sense of direction, and scatter. This approach can be particularly effective in dismantling opposition, breaking up rival factions, and establishing dominance in any situation where power dynamics are at play. The power of the leader. Greene opens the chapter by emphasizing that leaders hold a critical role in any group. The leader, whether in a business, political, or social context, often serves as the central pillar around which the group's identity and structure are built. If you remove or neutralize the leader, the group's unity can easily unravel. The leader's authority is typically the force that holds everything together, and their decisions, actions, and influence ripple through the entire organization or movement. A key example in this chapter is the Russian Revolution and the role of Leon Trotsky. Trotsky was the leader of the Red Army and a close ally to Vladimir Lenin. However, once Trotsky was removed from power by Stalin, the cohesion of the Red Army dissolved. Trotsky's followers scattered, as they no longer had a central figure to rally around, and this allowed Stalin to consolidate power more easily. In this case, Stalin struck the shepherd, and as a result, Trotsky's followers lost direction and purpose. The centrality of authority. Greene stresses that authority is often more symbolic than real. In many cases, followers are drawn to the leader not because of their personal qualities but because of the aura of authority that surrounds them. The leader symbolizes order, strength, and stability, and they become the glue that holds the group together. However, the true source of the leader's power is the loyalty of their followers. If you can disrupt that loyalty, by striking at the leader, you can destabilize the entire organization. This principle is evident in corporate takeovers, political revolutions, and even social movements, where the removal or discrediting of a leader can lead to the collapse of the group. Greene uses the example of the French Revolution, where Maximilien Robespierre, the leader of the Committee of Public Safety, fell from power. When Robespierre was removed, his followers were left disoriented and leaderless, leading to the collapse of his movement. Disrupting the group's unity. To understand the power of this strategy, Greene dives into the psychology behind group behavior. Groups, especially large ones, often become dependent on their leader for direction, purpose, and a sense of belonging. Once a leader is struck down, whether physically, politically, or socially, the followers are left without a sense of direction and can easily scatter. Without the central figure, the group may fall into disarray, and this can lead to its eventual collapse. Greene points out that this is why leaders often become targeted in political and military conflicts. By attacking the figurehead, you don't have to fight the entire group, you can incapacitate the movement with one powerful blow. In this way, disrupting the leader's authority can bring about much larger consequences than attacking the group itself. The strategy in action, military and political examples. Greene then draws from history to provide examples of how this law has been applied in military and political settings. He gives the example of Genghis Khan, who employed this strategy successfully by targeting the leaders of rival tribes. By eliminating or neutralizing the leaders, Genghis Khan ensured that their followers would be demoralized and would have nowhere to turn. This strategy allowed him to conquer vast territories and create one of the largest empires in history. Another notable example comes from ancient Rome, where the emperor's authority was closely tied to their ability to manage their image. Greene discusses how the Roman emperors strategically removed or killed rivals to maintain power. The emperor's ability to remain unchallenged in authority often depended on ensuring that their enemies were disbanded and rendered powerless. The centrality of the emperor's figure was paramount, and any threat to that leadership could cause a cascade of instability throughout the empire. Disrupting the network. One important element of this law that Greene emphasizes is that leaders don't just wield power in isolation, they control networks of people who support them. When you strike the shepherd, you're not just eliminating an individual, you're attacking the network of people and resources that the leader controls. This may include subordinates, allies, and supporters who rely on the leader for direction and sustenance. By taking down the leader, you undermine the entire network that supports them, causing widespread disruption. In some cases, the followers may not even realize that they've lost their leader's guidance, and they may continue to drift aimlessly, unaware of what has happened. In the case of Napoleon Bonaparte's downfall, his exile to the island of Elba left his followers without a clear plan, causing the empire to fall into disarray. When he returned to France for a brief period during the 100 Days, the lack of structure and leadership prevented him from regaining control, and he was once again defeated at Waterloo. Psychological warfare. Greene highlights that this law also involves an element of psychological warfare. By targeting the leader's image and authority, you also attack the belief system that their followers have built around them. The loss of a leader can create doubt, fear, and confusion within the group. Once the leader is removed, the followers may struggle to find direction and will often become vulnerable to manipulation from outside forces. Greene also warns that in some situations, leaders can become so ingrained in their position that their removal can create a power vacuum that leads to even more conflict within the group. This, however, is often a sign of weakness in the leader's position, and it demonstrates the fragility of power structures that are overly dependent on one individual. How to strike the shepherd. The practical advice Greene gives on how to strike the shepherd involves targeting the leader's vulnerabilities. This may mean discrediting them publicly, undermining their authority, or isolating them from their supporters. Greene advises that the key to striking the shepherd is to attack from within, turning the leader's supporters against them. Creating divisions or sowing discord among the leader's inner circle can have an even more devastating effect than simply removing the leader. Greene also emphasizes that timing is crucial. If you strike the shepherd too soon, you risk provoking retaliation. But if you wait until the group is at its most vulnerable or the leader's power is weakening, the impact can be profound. Understanding when and how to strike is the true mark of a skilled strategist. Chapter 43, Work on the Hearts and Minds of Others. In Chapter 43 of the 48 Laws of Power, titled, Work on the Hearts and Minds of Others, Robert Greene emphasizes the importance of understanding the emotional and psychological aspects of people when trying to gain influence over them. This law focuses on the idea that true power lies in the ability to shape the way others feel and think, ultimately guiding their actions without them even realizing it. Greene argues that the most effective way to gain power is not through force or coercion but through persuasion and emotional manipulation. By appealing to the hearts and minds of others, you can subtly influence their behavior and decisions, often leading them to act in ways that align with your own desires and goals. The power of emotional influence. One of the central ideas in this chapter is the concept of emotional influence. Greene explains that people are often driven by their emotions, whether they realize it or not. These emotions can cloud their judgment and shape their decisions. Understanding this aspect of human nature allows you to tap into people's emotions to control or guide their actions. Greene uses historical examples to illustrate how emotional manipulation has been a powerful tool in gaining power. For instance, he mentions the role of charismatic leaders who are able to appeal to the emotional needs of their followers. By presenting themselves as figures of hope, strength, or inspiration, these leaders are able to create a sense of loyalty and devotion among their followers. Creating emotional bonds. Greene discusses the importance of building emotional bonds with people to gain their trust and influence their behavior. By showing empathy and understanding, you can make others feel that you are aligned with their interests and concerns. This emotional connection fosters a sense of loyalty and trust, which makes it easier to gain their support. He provides examples of leaders who were able to build strong emotional connections with their followers. For instance, he discusses how Napoleon Bonaparte was able to inspire his troops through his charisma and emotional appeal. Napoleon's ability to connect with his soldiers on an emotional level created a bond that was difficult to break, even in the face of adversity. Appealing to desires and fears. Another key strategy discussed in this chapter is the idea of appealing to people's desires and fears. Greene explains that people are often motivated by their deepest desires, such as the desire for power, recognition, security, or love. By identifying these desires and appealing to them, you can influence people's actions in a way that aligns with your objectives. At the same time, fears also play a significant role in shaping people's behavior. Greene suggests that by understanding what people fear most, you can use these fears to manipulate their actions. For instance, by highlighting the potential dangers or risks associated with certain decisions, you can guide people to make choices that benefit your goals. The use of flattery and praise. Greene also emphasizes the power of flattery and praise in gaining influence. People naturally crave recognition and approval, and by giving them the attention they desire, you can win their favor. Flattery can be a powerful tool to gain trust and support, but Greene warns that it must be used carefully. Excessive or insincere flattery can come across as manipulative, so it's important to strike a balance and be genuine in your praise. He gives the example of King Louis XIV of France, who mastered the art of flattery. Louis created an atmosphere at his court where people were constantly vying for his approval, and in doing so, he ensured that his power remained unquestioned. The constant flattery and praise he received solidified his position as a powerful and revered ruler. Appealing to the ideal self. Greene also discusses the concept of appealing to someone's ideal self, the person they wish they could be. By recognizing the aspirations and dreams of others, you can frame your influence in a way that aligns with their vision of who they want to become. This strategy taps into people's deepest desires for self-improvement and recognition. For instance, if someone aspires to be seen as a visionary, you can frame your ideas or proposals in a way that makes them feel like they are part of something larger or more significant. By appealing to their ideal self, you make it easier for them to buy into your vision and support your goals. Psychological manipulation. The chapter delves into the concept of psychological manipulation, which involves shaping people's thoughts and behaviors without them even realizing it. Greene emphasizes that manipulation doesn't always need to be forceful or aggressive, it can be subtle and disguised as genuine care or concern. By understanding how people think and feel, you can craft your messages and actions in a way that makes them more receptive to your influence. One of the tools for psychological manipulation is creating doubt. Greene suggests that by subtly planting seeds of doubt in people's minds, you can make them question their decisions and beliefs, ultimately leading them to act in ways that align with your objectives. This strategy can be particularly effective in competitive environments, where undermining someone's confidence can have a significant impact. Using charm and charisma. Greene explains that charm and charisma are often underestimated in their ability to influence others. While many focus on intellect or power, charm can be just as effective in gaining loyalty and support. A charismatic individual can make others feel valued, heard, and understood, which leads them to follow and support that person without question. Charismatic leaders are often able to create a sense of shared identity with their followers. They make others feel as though they are part of something important and meaningful, which boosts morale and creates strong emotional ties. By leveraging charm and charisma, you can make people feel personally invested in your success and in your vision. The power of giving people what they want. Finally, Greene discusses the importance of giving people what they want in exchange for their loyalty and support. People are often willing to follow a leader who meets their emotional needs or provides them with something they desire. Whether it's status, money, or recognition, people are more likely to align themselves with someone who can fulfill their desires. By recognizing what people truly want and delivering on those needs, you create a sense of indebtedness and loyalty. This can be a powerful tool in maintaining influence and ensuring that others remain aligned with your objectives. Chapter 44, Disarm and Infuriate with the Mirror Effect. In Chapter 44 of the 48 Laws of Power, titled Disarm and Infuriate with the Mirror Effect, Robert Greene introduces a powerful psychological tactic, mirroring. The chapter discusses how imitating or reflecting the actions, behaviors, and mannerisms of others can disarm them, confuse them, and sometimes make them angry or even self-destructive. It reveals the deeper psychological effects of mimicry and how it can be strategically used to gain power over others, making it an effective tool in the game of influence and control. The key idea here is that people are naturally drawn to others who are like them or who mirror their behavior. This similarity creates a sense of connection or camaraderie, but Greene also highlights the dangers of this tactic. It can also irritate or upset people when they feel their own behavior is being mimicked in a way that exposes their insecurities. By understanding the balance between disarming and infuriating someone with the mirror effect, you can gain power in any interaction. Understanding the mirror effect. At its core, the mirror effect involves reflecting the actions of others in such a way that it confuses them or puts them off balance. Greene explains that when people are mirrored, whether it's their body language, words, or even attitudes, they feel a sense of connection, but they also become aware of themselves in a way that can be unsettling. The psychological concept behind the mirror effect is that people tend to trust those who are like themselves. When you mirror someone's actions, you create an unconscious bond that can make them feel comfortable and safe around you. However, when the mirroring is done in a way that is too obvious or aggressive, it can make the person feel exposed or mocked, causing them to react defensively, often with anger. Greene uses historical examples to demonstrate how mirroring has been used both to disarm opponents and to incite strong reactions from enemies. He notes that the effectiveness of this strategy depends heavily on timing, subtlety, and intent. If the mirroring is too overt, it can backfire and turn people against you. But when done cleverly, it can turn the tables, leaving the other person off balance and vulnerable. The role of subtlety in the mirror effect. Greene emphasizes that the mirror effect works best when applied subtly. It is not about mimicry in the sense of copying every move or word, but about reflecting the general tone, mood, or attitude of the other person. The key to successful mirroring is in its gradual and almost imperceptible nature, which makes the other person feel like they are interacting with someone who truly understands them or is on their wavelength. He explains that the best way to mirror someone is to identify key behaviors and emotional triggers and then reflect them back in a way that feels natural and non-threatening. The more subtle and natural the mirroring, the more likely the person will respond favorably, even if they don't consciously realize they are being mirrored. This technique can be used to disarm potential threats and create psychological intimacy with others. However, Greene warns that too much mirroring can backfire. It's a delicate balance, and if done improperly, it can create an impression of insincerity or mockery. The person being mirrored might feel that their authenticity is being questioned, which leads to resentment or even hostility. Mirror effect in conflict. One of the most fascinating aspects of the mirror effect is its use in conflict or competitive situations. Greene explores how mirroring can be a way of gaining an upper hand in negotiations or confrontations. If you are in an adversarial position and your opponent is particularly aggressive or defensive, mimicking their behavior, whether it's their tone, pace of speech, or body language, can disarm them. They may begin to feel that you are not a threat but an ally, or they may become frustrated as they realize they cannot outmaneuver you. Greene also explains how mirroring can infuriate your opponent in a non-direct way, especially if they are prone to emotional outbursts or insecurity. The mirrored behavior exposes their vulnerabilities and flaws, making them feel uncomfortable or embarrassed, which can throw them off balance and lead them to make poor decisions. An example he gives is of Napoleon Bonaparte, who was known for his ability to adapt and reflect the behavior of his enemies in such a way that they felt disarmed and unsure of themselves. Napoleon would not only mirror his opponent's strategies but also their attitudes and emotions, throwing them into confusion. By doing this, he would create a situation where his enemies were unsure of how to respond, often making them feel disoriented and ineffective. Dealing with strong personalities. Greene discusses the application of the mirror effect in situations involving strong personalities or individuals who are particularly difficult to deal with. These types of people often have inflated egos and may respond defensively to criticism or perceived challenges. The mirror effect can be especially useful in these situations because it softens their defenses while still allowing you to influence their actions. When you mirror a dominant or assertive person, you are showing them that you understand their worldview or position, which can create a sense of respect or admiration. This can be disarming, as the person may feel that you are on their side, even if your actual intentions are different. However, as with all forms of manipulation, this must be done carefully. Too much mirroring and the person may feel patronized or challenged, leading to a breakdown in the relationship. Mirroring in leadership and influence. Greene also highlights the strategic role of the mirror effect in leadership. Leaders who understand how to mirror the emotions and behaviors of their followers can create a strong sense of loyalty and connection, making their influence more effective. By reflecting the values and feelings of the group, a leader can show that they understand the group's needs and desires, which can foster a sense of trust and unity. However, mirroring in leadership also carries risks. If done incorrectly, it can be perceived as manipulative or opportunistic. A good leader must balance authenticity with the ability to adapt to the group's emotional state. If the leader becomes too focused on mirroring others for the sake of gaining approval, it can come off as disingenuous or self-serving. Mirror effect in personal relationships. The mirror effect is not only useful in conflict or leadership scenarios but also in personal relationships. Greene suggests that when you mirror someone's behavior in a personal context, it can create a sense of emotional harmony that strengthens the bond between you. People naturally gravitate toward those who understand them on a deeper level, and mirroring is a way to express that understanding. However, he cautions that personal relationships can be particularly vulnerable to misusing this technique. If one person mirrors another in a way that feels manipulative or insincere, it can create distrust and resentment. The key in personal relationships is to use mirroring sparingly and genuinely, making sure that the reflected behavior aligns with your true feelings and intentions. Chapter 45, preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once. In Chapter 45 of the 48 Laws of Power, titled, Preach the Need for Change, but Never Reform Too Much at Once, Robert Greene addresses the delicate art of instigating change in an organization or society. He discusses how to bring about transformation in a way that avoids alienating others, disrupts the status quo minimally, and positions you as a wise and steady leader rather than an unpredictable force of chaos. Greene emphasizes that change is often necessary for growth, but pushing for drastic change too quickly can cause resistance, panic, and ultimately failure. The chapter reveals how to implement gradual shifts that are more likely to be accepted, allowing you to gain and maintain control. The importance of change. Greene begins by acknowledging that change is an inevitable part of human life and organizational evolution. Societies, companies, and individuals are often in need of transformation, whether it's shifting outdated practices, introducing new ideas, or adapting to new circumstances. However, he stresses that change, when implemented incorrectly, can provoke fear, resentment, and pushback, especially when it challenges deeply ingrained habits or beliefs. People generally feel comfortable with the status quo, and sudden shifts can make them feel insecure or threatened. Greene illustrates the danger of abrupt reform by citing examples from history, where drastic changes led to resistance and downfall. People, whether in positions of power or not, are naturally resistant to change because it forces them to abandon familiar ways and adapt to the unknown. Thus, the challenge lies in introducing change in a way that is manageable, non-threatening, and gradual, so it is accepted rather than rejected. Gradual change and the power of timing. One of the key insights of this chapter is the idea of gradual change. Greene explains that incremental reform is far more effective than rapid, sweeping transformations. He suggests that leaders and individuals who want to effect change must start with small shifts that feel manageable, allowing people to adjust before making further moves. This approach makes change less jarring and helps to build a foundation of trust, as people can see the benefits of change unfolding over time. Timing is another critical element when it comes to implementing change. Greene advises that leaders should never push for change when people are already experiencing instability or hardship. During times of crisis or uncertainty, people are less receptive to change and more focused on stability and comfort. The best time to introduce reforms is when people are open to new ideas, but not overwhelmed by stress or fear. This insight underscores the need to read the emotional and psychological climate around you before pushing for any kind of transformation. The dangers of over-reform. A major warning in this chapter is the danger of over-reforming. Greene argues that attempting to reform too much, too quickly, is a surefire way to alienate people and lose your power. In situations where large-scale changes are necessary, they should be introduced in stages, with clear communication about the reasons behind them and the expected benefits. Rapid or excessive reform often leads to confusion, opposition, and even resentment. People may feel overwhelmed or undermined, and they may resist the changes outright. Greene uses historical examples to show how reformers who tried to change too much too quickly often faced rebellion or failure. For instance, many revolutionary leaders have tried to transform entire systems overnight, only to end up destabilizing the very thing they sought to improve. Over-reform is especially dangerous because it alienates powerful allies and undermines the existing order, even if the changes themselves are well-intentioned. One example Greene cites is the case of the French Revolution, where leaders attempted to drastically change the social and political structure of France. While some reforms were necessary, the extreme nature and speed of the changes led to chaos and violence, and ultimately the downfall of many of the revolutionaries themselves. Greene warns that while change may be necessary, timing and moderation are key to ensuring the reform is sustainable and accepted. The role of fear in change. Another important aspect discussed in the chapter is the role of fear in resisting change. Greene explains that when people feel threatened by change, they often respond with fear and resistance. Fear can make people feel uncertain about their place in the world and their ability to cope with new circumstances. This fear can be minimized by emphasizing continuity, stability, and support during the change process. Leaders who push for too much reform without considering the emotional impact on the people they are leading often create fear, which leads to backlash. Greene advises that the key to successful reform is to minimize disruption while introducing new elements slowly and gradually. Rather than focusing on what needs to be destroyed, leaders should focus on what needs to be built, creating a sense of progress and security even as change takes place. Communicating openly and transparently about the benefits of change is also critical in this process. The value of compromise and adaptation. Greene emphasizes that compromise and adaptation are key elements when seeking to implement change. When attempting reform, it's important not to be rigid in your vision of the future, but rather to allow for flexibility. Even when leaders have a clear vision of what needs to change, it is essential to consider the needs, concerns, and values of others involved in the process. Leaders who listen to feedback and adapt their approach will find greater success in implementing change. Greene also highlights that reform should not be perceived as a battle to be won, but rather as a collaborative effort to improve the situation. Reformers who act like dictators or tyrants can easily lose the support of key allies. A successful reformer understands the importance of building alliances, even with those who may initially oppose the changes, by offering them compromise and showing respect for their concerns. Realizing the potential of change. While Greene cautions against over-reforming, he also recognizes the transformative power of change when done correctly. Change, when implemented thoughtfully, can result in renewal, growth, and improvement. Leaders who are able to identify areas for progress and move people toward a more evolved state without threatening their core beliefs or identities will often be remembered as wise and effective. Greene also discusses the importance of making changes that are aligned with the needs and desires of the people being reformed. Change that is forced from the top down often fails because it does not account for the desires or motivations of those affected. Instead, the most successful reforms are those that are inspired by the collective needs and aspirations of the group, not solely by the desires of the leader. Gradual versus abrupt reforms in modern contexts. In the modern world, Greene suggests that the principles of gradual reform still apply, even in corporate or political environments. Leaders who try to transform organizations too quickly often face resistance not just from individuals but from entire systems that have deeply entrenched ways of doing things. Greene advises business leaders, in particular, to push for incremental changes, creating new systems, processes, or structures one step at a time, ensuring that they have the support and cooperation of those involved. Greene stresses the importance of patience and observation in the reform process. By taking time to assess the situation thoroughly and understanding the emotional and psychological climate of the environment, you can determine the best approach for implementing change without provoking unnecessary disruption. Chapter 46, Never Appear Too Perfect. In Chapter 46 of the 48 Laws of Power, titled Never Appear Too Perfect, Robert Greene explores the strategic value of humanizing oneself and the potential pitfalls of projecting an image of flawlessness. The chapter delves into how appearing perfect can create resentment, envy, and unnecessary tension. Instead, Greene advocates for showing some imperfections and vulnerabilities, allowing you to connect with others on a more human level, while still maintaining your power and influence. By creating a sense of relatability and imperfection, you are more likely to avoid the pitfalls of isolation and targeted resentment, and instead foster loyalty and admiration. The dangers of perfection. Greene begins by illustrating the inherent dangers of appearing too perfect. Perfection can breed resentment, as people often feel uncomfortable or even hostile towards those who seem flawless. This is particularly true in environments where competition, jealousy, and envy are prevalent. When you project an image of perfection, others may begin to feel that they cannot compete with you, or worse, that they are inferior. This sense of insecurity often results in negative emotions like envy and resentment, which can manifest in subtle sabotage or open opposition. The danger lies not only in how others perceive you but also in how this image of perfection can isolate you. Greene points out that human connection is essential for forming alliances and maintaining influence, and people are generally more drawn to those who have relatable traits, flaws, or vulnerabilities. If you appear too perfect, people may start to see you as unapproachable, untouchable, or aloof, and this disconnect can hurt your ability to maintain influence, even if you have superior talents or abilities. Greene draws on examples from history to show that individuals who have maintained the appearance of perfection often face downfall, not because of their actual actions but because of the resentment and envy that their perfection cultivates. Perfection makes others feel uncomfortable or insecure, which can lead to efforts to bring you down. The key, then, is to strike a balance between confidence and humanity, avoiding the creation of an unapproachable or overbearing persona. The power of vulnerability. One of the key ideas that Greene introduces in this chapter is the power of vulnerability. He argues that showing some level of imperfection can actually enhance your power and influence. Vulnerability can serve as a way to humanize yourself, making others feel more comfortable around you and allowing you to form deeper connections. When you allow others to see that you are not invincible, they are less likely to feel threatened by you, and they may begin to view you as more relatable and trustworthy. Vulnerability can take many forms, from admitting a weakness in a particular area to simply acknowledging that you, too, are human and prone to mistakes. This creates a sense of empathy, where people no longer view you as an unreachable icon, but as someone who shares common struggles and challenges. This bond fosters trust and makes it easier for others to align with your goals and support your initiatives. Greene emphasizes that vulnerability is not about showing weakness or exposing all of your flaws, it's about creating balance. The goal is to subtly reveal enough imperfections to make people feel more comfortable around you while still maintaining an aura of strength and control. This careful management of imperfections can be the key to creating loyalty and admiration among those who interact with you. Strategic imperfection. Greene suggests that showing imperfections is not about being overly humble or self-deprecating, it's about using strategic imperfection to your advantage. By occasionally revealing a flaw or weakness, you become more approachable and sympathetic, which helps to neutralize any envy or hostility. However, it's important to manage which imperfections you reveal and when. Being too open about your flaws or showing too much vulnerability can backfire, leading others to perceive you as weak or incapable. The key is to show just enough vulnerability to create connection but not so much that you lose the aura of power or control. In certain situations, revealing a well-placed flaw or imperfection can be a power move. For instance, if you are seen as perfect and untouchable, others may feel compelled to challenge you in ways that might harm your standing. However, by showing a flaw or vulnerability at the right moment, you allow others to feel that they are in control, even if they are not. This dynamic can make them more likely to cooperate with you and support your initiatives, as they feel more secure in their position. Greene uses the example of historical figures who were able to manipulate their image to maintain power. For instance, some of the greatest leaders throughout history have shown occasional signs of weakness or imperfection, knowing that it made them more relatable and believable. By displaying vulnerability at the right moment, they were able to reduce their enemies' desire to tear them down while strengthening their own position. The role of flaws in leadership. Another point Greene makes is that flaws can enhance leadership. Leaders who appear too perfect are often seen as remote or unapproachable, and this can hinder their ability to inspire and motivate others. Imperfections, on the other hand, show that a leader is human, and this humanizing quality can foster deeper connections with followers. People are more likely to follow a leader who demonstrates some level of humility, rather than one who comes across as infallible or perfect. Greene discusses the importance of empathy and understanding in leadership. Leaders who exhibit vulnerability can build stronger bonds with their followers by acknowledging shared struggles or challenges. This, in turn, can increase loyalty and emotional commitment from others. Leaders who appear too perfect may inadvertently make others feel inferior, which can undermine their own influence. The best leaders understand the power of authenticity, showing just enough vulnerability to connect with others without losing their commanding presence. Using perfection to create a desired image. Greene also discusses how you can use the perception of perfection to your advantage by carefully crafting the image you project. This involves understanding the subtle balance between showing imperfection and maintaining a strong, confident image. For instance, you can use a strategic flaw to deflect attention from other areas where you may be perceived as too perfect or flawless. In some cases, embracing a well-timed flaw can make you seem more human and increase your power over time. The goal is to ensure that your flaws don't diminish your authority but rather enhance your ability to relate to others. For example, showing occasional humility or admitting to a mistake can allow people to see you as a competent and strong leader who is also self-aware. This can be more powerful than projecting an image of unyielding perfection. Perfection as a trap. In the final sections of the chapter, Greene warns that perfection is often a trap. It is easy to fall into the mindset that perfection is the ultimate goal, but this pursuit can be self-defeating. Perfection often creates isolation and fuels resentment, especially in competitive environments. Furthermore, the perfectionist mindset can lead to unnecessary stress, as you constantly strive to meet unattainable standards. It's crucial to embrace imperfection as part of your strategy, understanding that perfection is not always the most powerful image to project. Greene advises that it's essential to recognize the difference between genuine strength and the facade of perfection. The most powerful individuals are those who can project authority and strength while remaining relatable, approachable, and human. This nuanced approach creates an aura of mystique and power without alienating those around you. Chapter 47, Do Not Go Past the Mark You Aimed For. In Victory, Learn When to Stop. In Chapter 47 of the 48 Laws of Power, titled, Do Not Go Past the Mark You Aimed For. In Victory, Learn When to Stop, Robert Greene explores the fine art of knowing when to stop and understanding the dangers of overreaching. This chapter focuses on the concept of moderation and how, in the pursuit of power, overextending yourself or continuing past a certain point of success can lead to disastrous consequences. Greene draws from historical examples to show how ambition, unchecked by limits, can lead to your undoing, even when success is within your grasp. The dangers of overreaching. Greene opens the chapter by discussing the temptation to push further once you've achieved your goal. Many individuals and leaders make the mistake of becoming greedy or overzealous once they experience success, believing that they can continue to build on their victory without consequence. This desire to push beyond the initial objective can cause a person to lose their sense of judgment and perspective. While ambition is necessary for achieving power, it can easily become self-destructive if it is not tempered with wisdom and restraint. The danger of overreaching, according to Greene, lies in the psychological effect that success can have on people. When individuals experience victory, they often become intoxicated by their achievements. This sense of invincibility can cloud their judgment, leading them to make decisions that are reckless or disproportionate to the situation. They may believe that their success has given them the freedom to take even greater risks, but this often leads to failure. As Greene highlights, hubris, or excessive pride, can be a powerful force that blinds people to their vulnerabilities. Know when to stop, the art of timing. The central message of the chapter is about timing, specifically, knowing when to stop and recognizing the point at which victory has been achieved. According to Greene, one of the most important skills in the pursuit of power is knowing when to close the chapter on a particular endeavor and not try to extract more than what is already on the table. When you reach your objective, it's crucial to stop, consolidate your gains, and avoid the temptation to keep pushing for more. This principle can be observed in the behavior of leaders and conquerors throughout history. Many successful rulers and military leaders knew that there was a specific moment when their goal had been reached and it was time to retreat before further risks could undo their work. By recognizing the limits of their ambition, they were able to secure their position and maintain their power. Greene also warns against the tendency to be seduced by the idea that there is always more to be gained. Success in itself should be seen as an endpoint, and if you push too far, you risk losing everything. Historical examples of overreaching. Greene uses historical examples to illustrate the dangers of pushing past your limits. One key example is that of Napoleon Bonaparte and his Russian campaign. In 1812, Napoleon had achieved remarkable success in Europe and was at the height of his power. However, his desire to expand further by invading Russia led to his ultimate downfall. Napoleon ignored the signs of overstretching, and his pride and ambition led him to attempt what was, at that time, an unmanageable task. The failure of the Russian campaign marked the beginning of his decline, and ultimately, his empire collapsed. Greene uses this as a cautionary tale of how even the most powerful leaders can fall when they refuse to recognize the limits of their reach. Another example comes from the world of business, where many companies experience tremendous success but then fail because they overextend themselves. They expand too quickly, try to dominate markets without understanding the risks, or diversify too far from their core competencies. Companies like Enron and Lehman Brothers serve as reminders that unchecked ambition can lead to collapse. Greene's point is that success is not merely about achieving a goal, it's about knowing when to stop pushing for more. The balance of power and restraint. The key to success, according to Greene, lies in finding the balance between ambition and restraint. Power is not only about gaining ground, it's also about knowing when to pull back and protect what you have. By stopping at the right moment, you can consolidate your power and avoid alienating allies or overburdening yourself with unnecessary risks. Victory should be measured in terms of the sustainability of your position, not in the accumulation of more achievements that might ultimately diminish your standing. In this chapter, Greene draws attention to the fact that most of the great masters of power understood the importance of managing the growth of their power carefully. They were able to recognize when it was time to rest on their laurels, or when they had sufficiently expanded their influence. They knew how to stop before their success became their undoing. Emotional control and rational decision-making. Greene also delves into the psychological aspect of power and ambition. The emotional control required to stop at the right moment is often a matter of self-discipline and rational decision-making. Many people get carried away by their emotions when they experience success. They want to show the world their victory, but this desire to prove themselves often clouds their judgment and leads them to overextend. By keeping emotions in check and focusing on the long-term strategy, a person can avoid falling into this trap. A key part of rational decision-making is to always ask yourself whether your next step is truly necessary or whether it is simply driven by pride or ego. Many people act out of a fear of losing their position, but Greene advises against acting out of fear, which often leads to rash decisions. True power lies in acting from a place of confidence and clarity, knowing when it's time to step back and when it's time to move forward. Psychological warfare, concealing your victory. Another aspect Greene touches on is the art of concealing your victory. Once you have achieved a significant win, it's crucial not to flaunt it or make it obvious to others. Celebrating too publicly can trigger envy and provoke retaliation, especially from rivals who feel threatened by your success. Greene suggests keeping your success low-key and maintaining a sense of mystery about your future plans. This can help you maintain a competitive edge by leaving others unsure of your next move. Concealing your victory also allows you to avoid unnecessary conflicts. If you push too hard after a victory, others may begin to see you as a threat and start working against you. By stopping at the right moment, you maintain control of the narrative and allow yourself to rest before making any further moves. You don't need to keep striving for more and more. Sometimes, being satisfied with your success and letting it speak for itself can be the wisest course of action. The nature of power, stability over excess. Ultimately, the chapter underscores the nature of power as being about stability and sustainability rather than excess. It is not about amassing as much power or success as possible, but about securing what you have and managing it wisely. Overreaching is often the path to destruction, as it invites challenges and creates instability. Power, in its most enduring form, is about creating a steady foundation and avoiding the temptations of reckless ambition. Greene closes by reiterating that the most successful individuals know how to operate within the boundaries of their power. They do not take on more than they can handle. They understand the limits of their reach and stop when they have achieved enough. The true mastery of power comes when you can look at your victory and recognize that it's time to step back, knowing when to walk away from a situation while maintaining your influence. Chapter 48, Assume Formlessness. In Chapter 48 of the 48 Laws of Power, titled Assume Formlessness, Robert Greene explores the concept of adaptability and flexibility in the pursuit of power. The central idea of this chapter is that in order to maintain control and avoid being trapped or predictably manipulated, you must remain fluid and formless like water. Greene argues that rigidity in one's tactics and approach can lead to predictability, making it easier for rivals to undermine you. In contrast, adopting an ever-changing, unpredictable form enables you to stay ahead of your enemies and maintain a position of power. The power of formlessness. Greene begins by introducing the concept of formlessness, which is derived from the wisdom of ancient philosophy, particularly the teachings of Lao Tzu in Taoism. In Taoist philosophy, water is often used as a metaphor for formlessness. Water does not have a fixed shape, it adapts to its container, flowing around obstacles and taking on the shape of whatever it touches. Similarly, by embracing formlessness in your approach to power, you avoid becoming predictable or vulnerable to attack. The key lesson here is that rigidity makes you an easy target for those who are more flexible and adaptable. Greene argues that sticking rigidly to one form, structure, or plan can make you a fixed target. Your enemies will be able to anticipate your next move and react accordingly. By remaining formless and fluid, you ensure that others are constantly guessing about your intentions and are unable to pin you down. This constant state of uncertainty creates a sense of mystery and unpredictability, which can be incredibly powerful in maintaining dominance. The importance of adaptability in strategy. The core principle of Chapter 48 is adaptability. Greene draws a parallel between formlessness and the success of powerful figures who adapted to changing circumstances. When the environment shifts or circumstances change, the best players in the game are those who adjust their strategy to fit the new situation. Rigid approaches to power and strategy can quickly become obsolete. For example, in war, as in life, the landscape is constantly shifting. Those who stick to the same tactics regardless of the situation will eventually be outmaneuvered by those who can see beyond the current constraints and act accordingly. Adapting to new circumstances requires a willingness to evolve and reassess the situation at hand. Greene emphasizes that in order to succeed, you must develop the ability to think dynamically, to consider multiple possibilities and to change direction when needed. The flexibility to act in the moment, without being wedded to a single course of action, is often the most powerful strategy. This ability to bend and adjust is what distinguishes those who hold lasting power from those who become stagnant and vulnerable. The fall of the rigid and the rise of the adaptable. Greene uses various examples from history to illustrate the pitfalls of rigidity and the benefits of formlessness. One of the most famous examples he provides is that of Napoleon Bonaparte, who, despite his immense early successes, was ultimately undone by his rigid strategy in his military campaigns. Napoleon became too reliant on his established methods and his own brilliance, ignoring the changing dynamics of his battles. This led to his downfall, as his enemies adapted faster and more effectively than he did. His failure to embrace flexibility in his tactics ultimately resulted in the collapse of his empire. In contrast, figures like Machiavelli, the Renaissance political strategist, recognized the power of adaptability. Machiavelli's writings emphasize the importance of adjusting one's approach based on the political climate, understanding that no single method or approach will work in every situation. Greene uses this historical reference to show how adapting to new realities is key to preserving power over time. Those who remain fluid, never becoming too wedded to a single idea or approach, can survive and even thrive in a constantly changing world. Avoiding the trap of predictability. Another critical idea in Chapter 48 is the danger of predictability. Predictability is one of the greatest weaknesses in the realm of power, as it allows your enemies to anticipate your actions and prepare countermeasures. Greene warns against becoming too attached to any particular role, form, or image. Once you are pigeonholed into a specific identity, whether in business, politics, or social interactions, your movements become easily anticipated, and you lose the advantage of surprise. Instead of allowing yourself to be defined by a single persona or strategy, Greene advises that you remain flexible and elusive, always evolving to keep your adversaries off balance. Greene refers to the concept of fluidity in battle and strategy, noting that generals and military leaders throughout history were most successful when they could change their strategies in response to evolving conditions on the ground. One battle plan may be effective in one situation, but it can become ineffective if the situation changes. Therefore, flexibility and the ability to think on your feet are essential skills in maintaining an advantage. Being unpredictable and adaptable allows you to shift gears quickly, avoiding the trap of being too comfortable or predictable. Mastering the art of reinvention. To fully master formlessness, Greene suggests that you must be willing to reinvent yourself when necessary. The most successful people understand that growth and survival often require a complete change in direction. Reinvention is not about pretending to be something you're not, rather, it is about responding authentically to external pressures while maintaining control over your destiny. This requires a deep understanding of your strengths and weaknesses, as well as an acute awareness of the shifting dynamics in your environment. Reinvention can take many forms. It might involve changing your approach to leadership, adjusting how you interact with others, or rethinking your personal or professional goals. By maintaining a dynamic presence, you ensure that you are always evolving and remain ahead of any potential threats. This fluidity is what allows individuals and organizations to endure in the face of change, making them more resilient and adaptable. The role of deception in formlessness. Deception plays a significant role in the concept of formlessness. Strategic deception allows you to mislead others about your true intentions, making them less likely to anticipate your next move. By appearing to be one thing, when in reality you are something entirely different, you can control how others perceive you and keep them off balance. For example, Greene cites the art of feigned weakness, appearing vulnerable or uncertain when, in reality, you are biding your time and preparing to strike. This tactic can throw your opponents off track and make them underestimate you, giving you the advantage when you act decisively. This idea of calculated deception ties back to the broader theme of maintaining formlessness. If others cannot predict your actions, they are more likely to make mistakes, which you can exploit. In this way, formlessness is not simply about changing your behavior, it is also about controlling the narrative and manipulating perceptions to keep others guessing. Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power serves as a masterful exploration of human behavior, strategy, and influence. Each chapter unpacks a timeless principle, revealing how individuals throughout history have risen to power by mastering the art of strategy, subtlety, and adaptability. The book is not just a guide to achieving success but also a cautionary tale, reminding readers and listeners of the delicate balance between ethical conduct and ruthless ambition. For your audience on Mindfuel Audio, the book provides a treasure trove of ideas to empower listeners with actionable insights. Whether they are looking to advance their careers, build stronger relationships, or navigate the complexities of social dynamics, Greene's principles offer practical guidance. However, the 48 Laws of Power goes beyond tactics. It challenges its audience to reflect deeply on their intentions and moral compass. While the laws can be used for personal gain, they also serve as a mirror, helping individuals understand how power operates in the world around them. For your channel, this creates a perfect opportunity to balance the book's lessons with mindful commentary, ensuring that the content resonates not only with ambition but also with a sense of integrity and wisdom.